The University of Sioux Falls campus got a little more crowded recently as the school played host to the third annual Talent Draft Day, organized by the Sioux Falls Development Foundation.
We had a great day at the University of Sioux Falls with 11 different types of experiences that we offered throughout the day, but really focusing in on what would it be like for those high school students to be on that campus. What would it be like for all of the talented college students throughout really the nation that logged on? What would it be like to work here in Sioux Falls?
The morning focused on middle and high school students from 16 schools. A kickoff from Mayor Paul Tenhagen and a high-energy, immersive start to the day.
We brought about 78 students here today to just explore the different career pathways that are available on USF's campus.
I'm looking to be an illustrator when I'm older, and that's why I'm exploring all the visual arts they have to offer here today.
So what did you think about the program?
I thought it was very interactive and very fun. It kept students engaged, and they did a great job explaining things in depth.
They compared it to a college visit on steroids.
It was very much an interactive presentation for learners where they could experience what those classes are look like and get a first-hand account of what it's like to sit in the classroom here at USF, and that's a very unique and special experience. Sometimes I think learners think that maybe a 4-year institution or a 2-year institution isn't for me, but this opens the doors to pathways that maybe kids didn't think they would want to try.
I think it's helped me decide whether or not I do want to go to college or not, and just gave me an idea of what college I would kind of like to go to.
I'm just very honored that our campus was able to do this. We consider Sioux Falls obviously to be our home. It's our namesake, and we believe very strongly that we need to positively contribute to the very community that supports our existence, the community and region.
Some high schoolers stayed for the afternoon when they were joined by USF students who took on a speed networking session with area employers.
For college students, it's a little bit different than for high school students. For high school students, it's all about the social skills, the soft skills that they're practicing. For the college students, it's all about making that connection to an employer, getting that internship.
There's a lot of different jobs in Sioux Falls and a lot of different varieties, so getting here to mingle and talk to other people and network just gives me an opportunity to talk with them, see what they're about, and other jobs that they have opened and careers that I could potentially be in.
I think what it does is it brings their education to life, because the theoretical constructs that happen in the classroom are necessary for building your knowledge, but finding your skill sets and dispositional attributes that go into the workplace, the best way you can do that is to have good conversations with people in the field. And so that's the real benefit, that experiential learning component for our students.
So we know that the development of employability skills or soft skills are really important, and just being able to have those conversations and open doors with those employers is a big leg up for our kids, and we're really excited to be here.
And what you don't see on campus is the huge participation in Talent Draft Day nationwide. Students representing 252 colleges logged on for a virtual interactive panel discussion.
For them, we followed up on what's it like to get an internship with one of our employers? What's the right way to apply? What's the advice that you have for somebody when they are applying? What's the proper follow-up?
And speaking of follow-up, that's what the Development Foundation will be doing with the nearly 2,800 students reached during Talent Draft Day.
So the goal coming out for colleges, when we have this great of a participation across such a large spectrum of really disciplines that we need to have here, we want to see these kids in internships with our employers this coming summer. And so we've already identified close to 5,000 students that have an interest in working in the Midwest. Our goal is to bring them here and get them tied into an employer. That's our next step.
Your next great employees could be getting ready to graduate from high school, and now there's a new way to connect with them.
What we have noticed is that we have a lot of kids that are currently in school, in high school, without having plans in front of them. They don't know what they want to do after graduation. So what this program does is it helps to find what their natural interests are, aligns them to an industry, an occupation, a career path, and then comes alongside of them with educational support to be able to obtain that.
The Sioux Falls Development Foundation launched its Career Connections program this fall on a pilot scale with nearly 60 students, 5 employers, and 3 school districts. First Premier Bank was one of them.
For 2 Fridays, we'd have the same group of students that we could talk about our company, talk about our industry, talk about career opportunities. And then those 2 weeks, and then we'd have another group of students rotate through, and that was for the first semester. In the second semester, those students got to identify which industry or which company they wanted to pursue. And so then they are full-time on Fridays coming to Premier.
One of those students is Thaddeus Knigge, a senior at New Tech High School who wants to own his own business eventually, but realizes he needs to learn more about business first.
It was amazing, and First Premier kind of stuck out to me in a way that I can blow my knowledge up in entrepreneurship with also understanding the bank's aspect of when I come in and I want a loan or something for my business, really truly that way.
He now meets one-on-one with Vice President of Business Banking, Pam Hanneman.
Kind of opens their eyes that, you know, you might be thinking about one thing today, but certainly those career paths can change over time. So I think it's very important for students to see that. Plus, it's great for me. I totally enjoy getting to meet these new young leaders that are going to be our future workforce. We've got some great talented individuals right here in our community. And if we can figure out ways to keep them here, it's just going to be better for all of us.
I met amazing people. Their staff is great. They're fun. They're funny to work with. They're just welcoming and everything, and they're willing to share their knowledge.
High schoolers also got a look inside Grand Prairie Foods, a new employer to many of them.
I don't need hundreds of people, but I could benefit from 2 to 3 very intentional recruitments and developments, and so it's perfect for us.
She begins by asking the students to think about what's important to them in a career: money, job satisfaction, or commitment to community.
So we start kind of high level, and then I ask the very obvious question: how many of you have ever thought of manufacturing or have ever been encouraged by your parents to go into manufacturing? And that's a pretty blunt question because the answer usually is no. And I know that to be the case, and then we challenge them on that. We say, well, why is that? Because you think it's something that isn't as important as another occupation? And then we get into the conversation about what we do. They get to learn from people who work with us.
And it seemingly doesn't take long before students form strong impressions.
This Career Connection program is an amazing program. Every student should really take it and take the opportunity for it. You get to learn it through businesses, and some of the businesses that was part of this program I've never heard of. And it was kind of fun to understand what they do and what they do at a national level, almost a global level.
The people that I've interacted with, they're great students, they're very focused, they're goal-oriented. They've got ideas of their own, which it's fun for me to see.
After you spend an hour with them, you are just, I mean, it's invigorating, and it's a connection with young people. So I would highly encourage all employers to do it, for sure.
Next school year, the Development Foundation hopes to bring many more employers into the Career Connections program. The Development Foundation handles all the logistics, including connecting students with employers. More than 400 students already are signed up to participate next school year, so businesses will find talent looking to learn about them.
We're making a meaningful difference with these kids, coming alongside of them, giving them that opportunity that wouldn't be there but for the fact of this Forward Sioux Falls sponsored program. And that is really powerful.
Nearly 60% of the U.S. population will move this year. Why are so many people packing up their belongings and making a move to a new city or state? Better job opportunities. Over 40 businesses are hiring right now. That's why the Sioux Falls Development Foundation created Work Sioux Falls, a local resource that gives job seekers an inside track to jobs that are open right now. See the difference a local company can make. Visit siouxfalls.com/work.
The #1 city for best small places for business and careers according to Forbes magazine, Sioux Falls.
Work Sioux Falls.
ZipRecruiter's #3 hottest job market, Sioux Falls.
Work Sioux Falls.
Over 40 businesses are hiring right now.
Work Sioux Falls.
That's why the Sioux Falls Development Foundation created Work Sioux Falls, a local resource that gives job seekers an inside track to jobs that are open right now.
Work Sioux Falls.
See the difference a local company can make in your career. Visit siouxfalls.com/work.
In the 1880s, courageous sisters came to Dakota Territory on a mission. Nothing fazed them when it came to founding our ministry. Today, Avera has that same tradition of determination. We're reaching you in new ways. Virtual health and smartphone visits. Clinics conveniently located in your neighborhoods. No matter what the future holds, our passion for progress will never fade.
At Premier, it's about doing what's right for our customers, employees, and communities, giving our time and resources to support what matters most: academics and athletics, arts and entertainment, families and economic development. When you have the right people, financial solutions, and a spirit of service, you build one of the nation's strongest financial organizations. First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card. Investing in you. Member FDIC.
Thanks, Greta. Yeah, my name is Brianne Lynch. I'm the Career and Education Coordinator for the Harrisburg School District, which basically means I get to help build business and community partnerships for kids and then in turn invite businesses into our school district. And we open our doors K through 12. A little bit of information about our school district, our fall enrollment, we had 5,720 learners. Our high school enrollment is a little under 1,500 at 1,480, and 52% of our kids participate in career and technical education courses. What CTE is today may look a little bit different than what you thought CTE was maybe when you were in high school, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Year by year, over the past 10 years, our district grows by about 300 learners. So 293 new kids entered the district this past year on our fall count day in September. So with exponential growth comes a lot of opportunities, but also comes a lot of challenges, and I see a lot of nodding heads. So some of you may be in our district, so that's awesome. We're going to talk a little bit more about the high school kids today in regards to talent and workforce development and Generation Z, and what do 9 through 12 kids really want. And so we're going to look at skill development and support, exposure and experiences, and a connection and a network. We find that our kids are really wanting that network. They miss that connection. It makes sense because our kids love stories. Right? Kids love stories. That's why they love TikTok. It's why they love Instagram. It's little micro stories that they find a connection with and build with. So looking a little bit at what high school kids want, our 9 through 12 learners really crave experiences. It's something that they need, and it's something that they want. So if we as a school district can open our doors and provide an experience for those Generation Z learners, it's going to then articulate into businesses and talent and workforce development. They also crave flexibility. They want to be able to discover things on their own schedule. Now, that's different for us as adults, right? We're typically used to saying, no kid, you're going to go to place A, B, and C at this time. And kids have learned, whether good or bad, that they can dictate their schedules to some point because high school has changed. What high school was when you were in high school is not what high school is now. Yes, we still cover the same content, same materials, same curriculum. Everybody's learning math, science, language, social studies, all of those great things. But schedules look different. Kids have more flexibility in their high school schedule, so therefore they want more flexibility out in their work life and personal life as well. So if you take our 11th and 12th graders, for example, we have 2 learning pathways in our high school. We have a customized learning pathway and a traditional learning pathway. With that, it opens up time in their schedule where they can go out to businesses and employers and participate in experiential learning like internships and job shadows during their school day. So it no longer interferes with maybe athletics, it doesn't interfere with fine arts or some of those other activities. They can use class time to develop some of those skills. Skill development is huge, but they need the coaching and mentoring that goes with it. So yes, kids are good at taking in information from videos, and they're really good at using the internet, but we also know that with a digital native background, they're sometimes not great consumers of information because they've had so much information at their hands. So putting information in a video format is a great idea. They'll love to consume it that way, but then there has to be coaching and mentoring that goes along with that. And that's where the connection piece comes in. If you can build a relationship and create a connection with a kid, you're going to find that they may want to come back to you someday as a future employee. And that's really valuable, and that's something that we're really trying to do as a district. So those are things kids want and what kids really need, and how the district partners that we have help provide that is by simply opening their doors so that we can help fill those employment gaps, and then helping us create accountable employees with those flexible schedules. So if you're going to allow some flexibility in scheduling, that means kids have to show up when they're going to say they're going to show up. And we can help coach and mentor through that situation as well. Now, is every 16, 17, and 18-year-old going to be perfect in their accountability? Absolutely not, because not every adult is, right? So, but we know that there's ways we can continue to increase those soft skills and those employability skills. And then opportunities to develop technical and industry skills. If you open your doors to kids at a younger age, 16, 17, and 18, they have the opportunity to develop some of those hard skills that you need in your industries, but also to continue to work on those soft skills, and then just to build that professional network. If they can build those relationships and connections with you early, they're probably going to stay in our area, they're probably going to go to school locally, or they're going to come to you directly when they want to join the workforce. The importance of career development is huge, and in Harrisburg it's not just a 9-12 focus, it's truly a K-12 focus, and we do that a little bit differently. So my position is fairly new. There's not many career and education coordinators in the state or the Midwest for that matter. We also have an innovative programs director that basically is like a jack of all trades. So you want to do something cool and innovative and cutting edge, that falls to Travis Lape, and he's here with us today as well. We do put on our elementary learner interest days where we focus with kids in grades 3 through 5. Which seems early, right? 3rd through 5th graders, what are you doing with them? Allowing them to see themselves in different places that they maybe couldn't see themselves before. You're simply giving them an experience and opening a door, because we know that kids become what they can see. Mom or dad's a nurse, mom or dad's a teacher, grandma and grandpa worked as a secretary, accountant, farmer. More than likely, I'm going to become those things because I can see them. But if we open experiences to kids at a younger age, they may start to fill the talent gaps in your industry because they can see themselves doing those things, which is really, really cool. Middle school looks a little bit different. We created an internal game of life for our 8th graders. Lifestyles, Communities, and Connections was a middle school program that we did in fall of 2019 that we hope to bring back now in our sort of post-COVID era, whatever that looks like. And then the expansion of our CTE programs at the high school. Like I said, CTE, maybe you've heard of vocational or technical education from when you were in high school, but we've really expanded that. And so partnering with the Sioux Falls Development Foundation with Career Connections and combining that with a technical English class to make English applicable to maybe 2-year bound students, 2-year post-secondary students. The expansion of our Home Builders Academy, where kids build a full-fledged house on our campus. There's no travel involved, there's no cost to the district. Kids just get to experience what it's like to be in that field, and they also pick up some college credits through Southeast Tech along the way. We expanded our culinary arts program, which was driven primarily by student interest. Project Lead the Way has expanded into engineering, and we've always had health science. Our employability program is where those kids are out in part-time jobs and maybe in some of your industries or some of your businesses where they can pick up high school credit by simply going to work. It's that accountability piece. It's the flexible schedule piece. And then our high school internship program, which is primarily my responsibility. We have 22 kids out in fall internships right now, everything from healthcare to law enforcement, education, pretty much everything. And it's pretty cool to see all of those experiences and hear the success stories that we get. And my last piece of... Sorry, Greta. I apologize, everybody. Keep going. There's some really good stuff there. Let me know if you want it. Thanks. I'm also an educator. We roll with technology all the time. One too far. There's my kids. Here's some really great examples of what the internship program has produced through Harrisburg High School. So on the left side of the slide is Colt. Colt is a 2021 grad of Harrisburg High School, and he was an intern with Tessiers here in Sioux Falls. Tessiers is a commercial HVAC servicer, and he's currently at Southeast Tech, but he still works part-time for Tessiers. And that opened so many doors. And you know what? I personally didn't have a connection with Tessiers as a company. The district didn't have a connection with Tessiers as a company. Colt signed up to take an internship, and he came to me, and I always ask, the kids, hey, do you have a specific business, interest area, something? If we don't have a partnership, we'll go build one, which is really fun for me. I enjoy that part of it. And he said, I got a buddy that works for Tessiers. I think I'd like to intern there. And I'm like, I know nobody there, but let's reach out and see what happens. And we sat down, had a couple conversations, talked legalities, all the things that you have to do to make sure everybody's safe, and we have protocols in place for that type of thing. But they said, sure, we'll try it, see what happens. They're like, but, the kid's probably never going to be able to drive a service vehicle. He's probably going to do a lot of observing. He might be really bored. It's fine. We'll see what it turns out to be. By the end of it, he had a company phone. He was taking home his service vehicle every night, and then he was working more hours than some of their part-time guys. So Tessiers keeps him on part-time while he's going to school, and when he's done, they have promised to pay back some of his tuition. So there's great partnerships being built there. And my last little story here, I'm going to talk about Lyric. Lyric is our healthcare champion. She's the reason why we have clinical interns placed at Sanford Health at the medical center and some clinics around town as well. She paved the way for our kids. She came into the internship program CNA certified and EMT certified, and then just showed up every day and did the work that we want our CNAs to do. So students are placed as nursing assistants inside of the Sanford Health Medical Center on multiple floors, doing all the things that nursing assistants would normally do. And she's currently at Augie. She had planned to go to medical school. She's decided that nursing is her true passion. She's early acceptance, second year into the Augie nursing program. And I'm telling you, she will tell you every day that she's a Harrisburg kid, she's a Harrisburg Tiger, and I guarantee you she will be a Sanford Health employee for life. And those are the types of kids we want to make sure stay here. So thank you for letting us share our Harrisburg story.
You guys hear me? There it is. I've only got like 3 or 4 slides that I'll be talking from, so it'll be easy to to remember to prompt them. But my name is Josh Muckenhern. I'm an architect with ISG in Sioux Falls here. And I'm really up here. I know Brianne was talking about the school district. I'm coming from kind of the employer standpoint because we're feeling the pain that everyone else is. But I'm here to kind of share our story and how we've really seen some growth, or how we've been able to continue to grow over the last year. So you can go to the next slide. And I put this one up here. So I'm an architect for ISG. That's my business card. But I always like to say, you know, this is the real me. That's just like a piece of it. And kind of getting to Brianne's point about Gen Z, they like telling stories and making connections. I think that's really a big piece, and something that ISG does is really making a connection with the employees. You're not just hiring a body. You're hiring a person with passions, with hobbies outside of work. So really, I think making a point to get to know who they are beyond just, are you being productive in the office? It goes a long way, because it's going to help build that relationship. It's going to help them want to stay with you, be attracted to that company. So that's one thing I very much value about ISG, the importance and investment they put on their employees. Can go to the next slide. So just to give for those of you who are not familiar, just a quick overview of ISG. We're a full service architecture, engineering, design firm. And I think one of the reasons that we have been successful over the really the last year, because we've grown, we're about 350 employees now, grown about 30 or 40 in the last year, which is kind of odd given everything that's been going on, but it's been awesome. But I think a part of that is really our whole setup and our philosophy with how our business is differentiates ourselves from some of the other stereotypical engineering architecture firms. You know, a lot of them, I guess, as years passed, really been set up where it's more of the sequential or progression to your career, where you start as the intern, then you go to project support, or then you're a project coordinator, project manager, executive, and then ownership is the kind of end goal. We are really set up much differently than that. We really focus on more so the strengths and passions of each employee. So one of the biggest things in order that we've found success in keeping our employees is tailoring a job or a responsibility to kind of someone's passions or strengths. So when you first start at ISG, you go through the Strength Finder, if anyone's familiar with those. You kind of get an idea of how you as an individual learn and operate, but also then the company kind of gets an idea of how you learn and operate. So with that, we've really allowed people to tailor their careers and to really focus on their strengths or what they're good at. For example, we've got an employee in Sioux Falls that started as a civil engineer, saw we had a need in structural engineering. He saw that he had a passion in structural engineering, decided to retrain himself, become a structural engineer, move to a different office actually to get some mentorship kind of in that role. And then he found out that he's got a big passion in making connections and networking and business development. So he moved back to Sioux Falls because this is where he's from. And the company, ISG, was open to that. We were just completely open to that because we loved his passion that he was showing. He was going to be more successful in what he's doing, which ultimately leads to more success in the business. But it's going to, by doing that, it really allows the employee to stay fulfilled in what they're doing. So, I mean, you can have a job responsibility, but I guess where we found success is not really necessarily staying in that tight boundary, but really allowing it to fluctuate based on what someone's passions or strengths are. So you can go to the next slide. So the next slide is really, I kind of broke down some of the things I mentioned on, but what I like to call the ISG difference, kind of a catchy, you know, whatever, just to make it sounds good. But so number one is the personalized growth, and that really kind of goes back to that example that I just mentioned, where it's really tailoring a job to someone's strengths and passions, because it's cheaper to keep someone, or not cheaper, it's just more, I mean, responsible as a business to keep someone than to let them go and have to rehire someone else, or allow them to see something else that they like more, go there and have to rehire someone. So really doing whatever you can to keep a good employee, because it's really employees that make a successful business, and especially when it comes to Gen Z, being flexible, you know, really working with that to allow them to work when and where they want. So the second point here is something that we're actually really proud of. So we're 100% employee owned. So that basically means that there's no partners or you know, central ownership. It's every employee has an ownership say in the company, and that really allows us, it creates kind of a culture of accountability and ownership from the very beginning. So you talk about someone coming into the workforce for the first time, having the ability to have ownership in what they're doing right off the bat, rather than some fleeting idea 20 years down the road. Hopefully, if they can get there, it's right away. You got a stake in this company. So that really allows us, we put value on everybody's thoughts and ideas, and especially, again, someone coming into the workforce right away, allowing them to have a say in their day-to-day, their job, the company operations. It goes a long way, and we do listen to that, because we did some, our accounting team did some fun mathematics or accounting, but they basically said if someone in our company was to find something that saved them 15 minutes a day, and we could apply that across the company based on our size, it'd save about $460,000 a year. So it's really, we really believe in listening to each and every employee, whether they've been here for a week or they've been here for 10 years. If they have something that can improve the company, we listen to it, and that really helps, again, Gen Z or someone coming into the workforce really have that sense of ownership. And the last one is technologically nimble. So as we're all aware, Gen Z and even the generation below them are growing up in technology even more so than any of us have. They're born into it. That's kind of part of their life. So as a company, you know, we were actually fortunate. We were already pretty much set up before COVID and everything happened last year to be able to work from home. We had a virtual VMs, virtual machines, so everyone had, you know, laptops, able to work where and when you want, where and when and how you want. So if it's at the office, at home, at the coffee shop, if you just needed a break to get away from everything, you can still get your work done. So just staying up with the latest technology and leveraging those technology and those tools are what we found to be very successful, not only in our business growth, but in order to attract and retain, especially some of the new graduates and interns, to continue to grow our workforce. And I think that was my last slide. Yeah, he's nodding. That means yes. All right.
Great. Thanks, Josh. All right, we'll move it over to Nathan.
All right. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Well, like previously mentioned, my name is Nathan LaCroix. I am a talent sourcer with Avera, AKA I am a headhunter. So I focus on, need to fill jobs, the critical, hard to fill ones. I go out and find those applicants and really sell Avera to them. So, and that's going to bring me into, again, today I'm getting goosebumps just to be able to sit in front of you guys. I am extremely humbled to sit in front of you guys to talk about the next generation coming into the workforce. And that generation is Generation Z. So I'm sure a lot of you guys here today have saw some younger kids coming from high school. Well, you saw some of Generation Z already. Well, how would we define Generation Z? There's more of them. So we'll go to the next slide. So Generation Z is the cohort following millennials. I'm a millennial. They were born between the late 1990s to the early 2010s, and some people refer them as the I generation. Now, we have a little brief information of what Generation Z, so let's see what kind of characteristics they bring. I know we've already previously mentioned some. Let's jump into, I brought in just a few of them. Go to the next slide. So, as previously mentioned, they are the most diverse generation by far. By far, I would say the most in American history, probably in the world. On average, the population of Generation Z, by their 12th birthday, they have received their first iPhone. How crazy is that, right? They're communicating through social media. They're communicating through texting. They're spending as much time surfing the web as older generations are watching television, right? So these individuals, Generation Z, grew up with the rise of smartphones. High-speed internet, not dial-up. Mom, get off the phone. I'm trying to look up some videos. Nope. They have all had Wi-Fi from the very beginning. They are able to conduct research that you've never thought of. They have access to news articles, research articles, educational videos, and much, much more. Well, They are also independent. I feel like, what we previously heard, these individuals, you can give them a task, they have all the information at the tip of their fingers to find out what they need to do and finish that task. They are competitive. They are highly, highly educated. Just think about it. Think about how technology and education has changed over the 5 to 10 years. Technology and education they're working so well together collaboratively, where these Gen Z can put real life experiences, or they can use their academic experiences and put them towards real life work situations, problems that we are having and facing today in the workforce. They are able to use their education and put in simulations on how and what they can do to fix those problems. They are also financially minded, as we previously mentioned. It's probably fair to say that a lot of Gen Z saw millennials, their parents being laid off during the Great Recession from 2007 to 2012, right? Their parents are being laid off. It could be their brothers, their sisters, their nieces or nephews, however their age is, maybe graduating college and not being able to find a job. That stuck to them. They saw their parents go through a tough situation. They saw their brothers and sisters go through a tough situation. So when these Gen Z enter the workforce, they're going to be financially minded from the very beginning. I need a good pay that's market value, and most importantly, job security. We'll go to the next slide. So, we understand some characteristics joining the workforce. So, as the mayor said, and everyone else here, I'm sure we're all feeling the pain. We need people right now. Well, how are we going to hire them, and how are we going to retain those folks? So, value proposition. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what value proposition is. It's basically demonstrating what value you are going to give to them, right? So think about the job description. Think about your average job description. You have a quick summary, you have your essential functions, and then you have your education piece. That's status quo. That's not going to fly anymore. With Generation Z, so digital natives, it's imperative that we're being aggressive with our marketing strategies and defining them to join our organization. What are some great benefits that your organization offers that your competitors do not? That is what's going to sell your organization over anybody else. Yeah, what if we have a higher pay for this specific position? Awesome. We need to put that on the job description. I offer great benefits that maybe my competitor does not have. Awesome. Put that on there. Maybe you have a cool feature where you join us and you can go bowling for 5% off. Whatever it may be, that is something that's going to be attractive. You see that Generation Z is already digital natives. They're going to see your job, but is your job going to sell itself? Or do you need someone to actually call them to sell it to them? No, that's status quo. We need to have a job description. We need our value proposition to be upfront, point out why they should join our company. Why is it such a benefit to join us? Are you guys working on some great projects that are affecting the community, your loved ones? Right? They want to make change. Generation Z is about change. You already heard that they're politically minded. They want to be a part of change. Are we offering flexibility to Generation Z? We're going to go into my next topic of flexibility. Well, we saw with COVID, organizations had to adapt. Change happened like no other, where we had to have staff work from home, work hybrid. 3 days in the office, 2 at home, or 3 days at home and 2 in the office. To retain and to attract Gen Z, like Josh mentioned, we need to provide flexibility. We need to give them an option where they feel comfortable and safe to do their job, where they feel open-minded. Peer coaching, we already briefly touched on that. It is so effective having the younger generation, and even my generation and older generations, to have peer coaching programs. So I highly encourage having peer coaching programs and organizations to really sit down with the younger generation, the Generation Z. They've already seen that through all their schooling. Think about all the classmates when you go through school. Think about all the classmates you've spoken to, all the academic advisors you spoke to. Okay, I am at this point in my career. I'm this far. I'm 1 year away from graduating. What can I do next? They've been coached, peer coached, their whole entire time being in school. So it's super effective having someone build a relationship with them in an organization and to walk through them. Hey, What do you see in this organization? How are you feeling? You feeling the mission? You feel like you're being a part of the team? That goes a long ways on bringing them to stay with your organization. Diversity. Well, we already know this is the most diverse generation by far that we've ever seen. We need to embrace it. We need to cheer for it. We need all of our leaders to be a part of diversity change. We need to be out there celebrating it. And especially with the, nimble technology. They're digital natives. They want to be able to streamline processes. We need to, as organizations, to work with new technology. How can it make our lives easier? How can we bring people on board? Work-life balance, I think this not only speaks to Generation Z, but for all generations. It is so important to work for a company that promotes work-life balance. We already heard it, right? We work from home. We want leaders, we want the organizations to promote that we understand that you're busy at work, but we also care about you outside of work. We care about your hobbies, your future, your goals, your dreams. That is what's important. And when you sell that to a Gen Z, I guarantee you they're gonna bend over backwards. I love this company. I love this. They give me the option. I don't feel like I get pit stains having to ask my manager. I have a doctor's appointment. Can I take the rest of the day off? You giving them the option to have work-life balance, it's gonna go a long ways. Development and growth. Generation Z needs this up front. Transparency is the most key piece of Generation Z. As previously mentioned, they're already financially minded. Well, financially minded means development, opportunities for growth, right? What if they're coming from another organization and they already hit the ceiling? I've seen it so many times in the talent acquisition field already. I've already hit my ceiling. I'm looking to go elsewhere. We need to come up with new ideas, new programs. In the interview process, discuss this is the pay. These are the programs that this organization has. This is the way we can help you obtain certifications that will help you grow in your career. These are the titles. These are the projects you can work on. This is what you can do if you stay with us. You show them that there is unlimited growth with an organization, it's gonna go a long ways. Social awareness. Oh my gosh. One click away, I can look up any company here. I can find the good, the bad. Are companies committed to social change, equity and environmentally? Organizations need to be committed to those. As I mentioned previously, Generation Z, they're about change. They want to change the world. It gives me goosebumps even thinking about this. I am so happy because that is something that the organizations need. We need to, actions speak louder than words. I'm gonna say that, right? Organizations may be able to say, yeah, I noticed, yeah, they acknowledge the fact, they're talking about it, but are they acting on it? So any change that your company needs to do, act on it. Don't talk about it, because Gen Z is gonna notice that. Job rotation, this one's important. I think we all discussed about it today. Job rotation. You hire someone into a company, but maybe they see someone else working, hey, that's interesting. Or hey, that's interesting, what do they do? Giving them the opportunity to visit different departments around your organization, different jobs, to see what kind of skill sets are you using here? What are you using here? Is there a way I can combine those two? It's a sneak peek, a snapshot of what development, growth opportunities you have at the organization. Maybe you see that, hey, they have a really good skill set for this project. I'm gonna pull them away from that job, and I'm gonna put them on that one. That way we don't have to go out and look at the workforce and try to find somebody that is specifically looking for that job. We are able to keep that talented individual and to be able to work on all the projects. Generation Z is cultivating new ideas. They are bright. They are so creative. They're entrepreneurs. This generation is gonna make a difference in the world, and I, for one, I am super excited to move out of the way. Millennials, move out of the way. Generation Z is here. Thank you.
I don't know if you want to hear that. Can you hear me now? Oh, my name is Brittany Minert. I am from T, South Dakota. Going along with the topic today, I was born in 2000, so I am considered a Gen Z. I am currently attending the University of South Dakota down in Vermillion. I am pursuing a marketing major through the Beacom School of Business, as well as getting my minor in Spanish. So being a part of the Beacom School of Business comes with some opportunities for students. One new opportunity that was new this year is the Best SF internship program, which I'm participating in currently as well. So a little bit about the program is students are selected by faculty to participate in this program. Those who are selected are then given a company out of Sioux Falls, and then every Friday we travel up here to Sioux Falls, work in-house at the company to work on a project that they provided. I was very fortunate to get LG Everest, which is a fantastic company. I absolutely love working there and helping them out. One of the projects that they gave us was recruitment for blue-collar workers, which is actually how I ended up being here and having presented it to you guys today. So I talked to Denise Guzetta and about recruitment, and she wanted me to come talk to you guys about Gen Z perspective. So one of the reasons that I chose to be part of the Best SF internship program was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to go out into the workforce and learn the business world in and outs. So for me, I wanted to be able to take the concepts that I'm applying or learning in class, I'm understanding it to a degree. You can only take what you learn in class so far, but then coming into this internship, into this opportunity, I'm able to take those concepts I learned from class and be able to actually apply them, see if I understand, and then utilize my resources at USD to develop the goal even further, to help my company even further. I personally love doing projects, so I'm very excited about the project that I'm working on. I love being presented a problem, figuring out, okay, how can I be a problem solver? How can I think this through? What can I do to improve my business? What can I do to improve my problem? What can I do to improve myself? The reason why I chose the Best SF was not just because it was something that I could put on my resume after college. That was not the reason why. The reason why was because I wanted to improve myself. I wanted to be better than when I was last semester, than when I was a week ago, than when I was a day ago. I want to be able to improve my company, improve my education, my learning, my experience. There are some things that I also want to talk to you about today. As a Gen Z, there are some things that if I were to have to go out into the workforce today, there are some things that I think I would be definitely looking for. One of those is good communication, which I think we've all talked about here today as well. As we are deemed Gen Z digital creators and influencers, we constantly have our phones in our hands, so we constantly have access to information. And so hanging out with my mom and my family, a lot of times my mom goes, oh, like, what's a question or what's an answer to this question? I go, Mom, just Google it. Or Mom, look it up on Amazon. And it's one of those things where we are so used to having our cell phones and information at our disposal that I think it's going to be really crucial for businesses to be open with that communication with us going forward as well. So being able to take that information and be just transparent with us as well. Another one is opportunities. So us Gen Z, we're looking for those opportunities to connect with employers, to connect with other coworkers, to connect with other Gen Zs, other generations as well. So we're really looking for those connections, but we're also looking for a way to learn. We want someone to teach us. We might think that we know it all, but I assure you we don't. We love to learn. I am a huge person on constructive criticism. If I'm doing something bad, I want to know why and how I can improve it. I want to learn. I want someone to teach me, to take me under the wing, to mentor me into becoming a better person for myself, for the company that I might be working at presently, for future companies. So I really want to learn and be able to be mentored in that aspect. No, I do not have any slides. That's the only one for me. Perfect, thank you. No, all good. With that being said, so I talked a little bit about positives, but I also want to talk about one thing that I think can be a crucial mistake that companies can make. So along with the opportunities, I did try to seek out an internship this last spring. I applied to 2 companies. First, the one company that I talked to, I was actually really excited to be a part of. They've been part of my community, and so I was really kind of invested into seeing if I could have an internship there. And they talked to me, they said, hey, we're looking forward to having an intern. We just need to make sure we have the resources and the funding and the availability to hold the intern. I said, that's fine, that's cool. Contact me, I'll contact you back in 2 weeks. We'll talk then. I did that. They said, hey, we need another 2 weeks. We still don't have it figured out. This continued on for about approximately 2 months. And I'm okay with being, waiting and seeing how things work out, but it almost felt to me like an empty promise. And I think that's where the company kind of, I don't want to say failed, but maybe could improve on. Those empty promises, I think, can really burn bridges, and I think it was just a lack of communication. On the same note, that same spring, I applied to another internship. Within a week, they got back to me and they said, hey, you know what, thanks for applying. We're not looking for you as a candidate right now. Check back at a future notice and we'll discuss it then. And I felt respected in the way that they weren't dragging it on. They said upfront, honest with me, said, hey, we're just not looking for what you have to offer at this moment. And I understood that, especially being a business major. They're a business. They need to make sure that they have the right candidate and do what's best for them, but also let me do what's best for me as well. So I think just good communication, transparency, and just opportunities is what I would be looking for in a future employer as well. So, but if the biggest thing, like I said, that I would like you guys to take away, if you take anything from me, it would be us Gen Z, we're looking for opportunities and we're looking towards you guys. So we would really appreciate any opportunities, teaching experiences that you'd be willing to give. So thanks for listening.
Emails, I haven't seen the best responses. I think when we have a chance to have them apply, we have a chance to have your text messages. Text messages and over the phone. That's where I've seen the most success.
I would say like networking for sure. So I know at least for USD, I can only speak for USD, but in the springtime we have a day where at least BCom School of Business and businesses are allowed to come together and discuss being like going through the internship process. What are they offering? So I know days like those are really important, especially for us, just to be able to talk to multiple businesses and employers on, what are they looking for and if the fit's right.
Is this one on? Yes. Well, so I guess one example that we have kind of beyond the social media or the digital communication, I mean, just getting connected with that Generation Z or the next generation, we have had interns kind of come in for a summer or reach out to a school or even go present to a school as it pertains to architecture, engineering. And that to us is, I mean, it's awesome because you are opening someone's eyes. Like myself, when I was in that age looking what I want to do, I had no idea what architecture was. And you don't really see what there's really nothing that shows that. So reaching out, even just reaching out to a school or CTE or whoever and being like, hey, we'd love to have someone come just shadow us or even hang out at the office.
Come talk to us. Our doors are open all the time. I know many school districts, that may be a challenge, but our doors are definitely open in Harrisburg, and I know more schools and more districts are opening their doors as well. And I don't think you can do that too early. Like I said, we open our doors for 3rd through 5th grade, middle school, and high school as well. And we do still teach kids how to answer emails. That is a skill. Communication is a soft skill we still focus on. Is email the best way to communicate with Gen Z? Probably not, but they are good at answering text messages. All my high school interns have my personal cell phone number, and that's another can of worms, and you can talk about the ethics and legality of all that too. But if I need to contact them quickly, that's the best way to do it, and they will reply directly to me. The interns that I shared the success stories of our previous graduates, those kids will every once in a while just text me, hey, Mrs. Lynch, what's up? And I'm like, hey, what's up with you? And then they'll text me back what they're doing in school or what the work they're working on and the successes that they've had, or hey, can we meet for coffee? I think those are ways to build those communication lines that are easy for them.
So most of you guys are in professional settings. How would you approach the manufacturing sector when you have to be there at a certain time for a certain amount of time? How do you develop that flexibility, that culture within a manufacturing environment?
I feel like that's a good question. Are they full-time, part-time? Are you full-time? Are they able to be flexible with the hours? So maybe if you're, so no, okay. So what kind of, are you looking for, obviously people graduating from high school, college? What's your primary, what kind of candidate what are you looking for in a candidate?
So I'm with the Development Foundation, so I don't actually hire these
Okay.
or do.
Okay.
So for the manufacturing, you have a set time when you have to be there, whether it's 7
Right.
to 3 or whatever that is. And if people are gone, it throws off the whole system.
Absolutely.
So when you set up an attraction strategy like you guys all have, and you talk about flexibility, and you talk about pay scales and those types of things, sometimes that doesn't apply very well to the manufacturing setting where you may have, it might be unionized, for example, and you have a certain production schedule that's the first 2 shifts and a maintenance schedule that's the 3rd shift. And how do you develop that culture within an organization like that?
That's a very good question.
So not in the manufacturing, but just kind of looking back at again, drawing off what we've found successful, trying to apply it to that. I mean, I feel like at that point, since the flexibility is it's a different, not really part of the equation as much. Really being clear on what your company's values are and being transparent with your communication and offering opportunities, showing them what their career path could look like, how could they continue to advance, and being just very clear on that. Because I think that's where, especially if you're moving to a new, like if someone's moving from out of state to Sioux Falls, they need to be able to see, what does my future look like there? If I'm going to come here and start at this manufacturing, am I going to be stuck at that spot, or is there a path for me to continue to grow? So I think just being very clear on that. Again, coming from the outside, that's just my perspective.
Any other questions? We have about 5 minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
How is Gen Z finding out about internships and job opportunities? Any ideas on that in their communities?
Yeah, I've had a lot of success reaching out to the schools, reaching out to the deans that maybe were looking for, finance interns, reaching out to those deans that can reach out to those students, because they're going to have those professors in their back pocket, be like, hey, Avera has internship with summer internships or whatever it may be. I've had a lot of success there. Otherwise, if you're looking for a different demographic, working with the different programs around Sioux Falls, Goodwill or whatever it may be, to get the information out there, put some flyers out there. We're looking for internships, but most importantly for like those professional level internships, reaching out to different schools. A lot of different schools have, DSU, right? We're going there for our IT individuals. SDSU, USD, Go Yotes, Good Finance. So understanding what schools provide the best. And obviously we use Handshake. There's different programs like Handshake out there that has multiple different organizations or schools all interconnected where you can post one job and post it on all those job postings. But I also like to reach out. I like to over communicate. It's easier just to post something, but if you don't inform the advisors, academic advisors, and those professors and those deans, they may not, give you all the communication. It's really nice to have extra support, having it come from those professors and things like that.
I was going to say at the high school level, again, reaching out to those people. So in our district, that's me. We have an internal jobs board where we post entry level or summer internship positions. Most districts have somebody where there's an internal list somewhere that's working that kids have access to, or a person or a counselor or a teacher in a smaller district that organizes those things for them. So again, reaching out to your local school district will be huge for those entry level or experiential internship project-based situations, and connecting with a specific class or career and technical program is huge. So if you just think of it as like if you do the blanket umbrella approach, it's not always going to resonate or hit the right kids or the right talent you're trying to attract. But if you're healthcare, hook up with HOSA or a health science class. If you're manufacturing, hook up with skilled trades courses. So many districts have agriculture programs in our area, in our smaller districts. Connect with those people, because agriculture, food, and natural resources as a pathway is huge. It covers lots of things like transportation, as well as ag products and manufacturing and energy and some of those other areas. And then being able to think outside the box. Reach out to your local school district. Will they let you set up an employment table over their lunch hour? So we do that with our district partners. So people that give time and opportunities to our kids, we let those people come into our 10-12 lunchroom from 11 to 1, and they put up an employment table. And so we've helped fill some of the talent gaps at the entry level position and in those ways.
We have time for one more question if anybody has anything. Otherwise, go.
I'm curious about incentives. So wage is huge today. I mean, we go 14, the next person goes 15, the next person goes 16. So in terms of Gen Z, what incentives are they looking for? In some cases we can't offer a 10% off your shopping trip or a free meal while you work or free coffee. So what are the incentives that Gen Z is really looking for beyond wage, growth, and development?
Well, I would say, so I went to actually another marketing business convention yesterday, and I went to a Culture is Currency by Think 3D. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're from Sioux Falls. And they were talking about the difference between pay and the amount of work somebody puts in is company culture. And I think that's going to be a really big thing is, does my company support me professionally, but also personally as well? Does my company be inclusive? Is my company communicating? Are we being flexible? Whatever that may mean for a variety of businesses. I think company culture, is going to be a really big factor in taking the pay and kind of breaking that down into a smaller compared across the board.
All right, I think that's it. Thank you guys to all of our panelists. Thanks for coming today. I'm sure they're available for questions if you guys have individual questions. So, thanks.
We're going to go ahead and get started. Jesse, I'm going to ask you if you can close that door. So welcome. My name is Denise Gazzetta. I'm the Vice President of Talent and Workforce for the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. This is really a great session because we're going to be talking about very, very progressive things that have occurred during a very challenging time for a lot of employers. And really, we're going to talk about how we're taking and working with our internal populations, our largest one being our youth, and how we're developing them and really coming alongside of them so that they can work for the businesses that are represented not only here but in our community. So with that being shared, we'll go ahead and get the presentation started. So one of the things I may do to make room is to maybe come off the stage if I have to. But the idea is to look at the progressive measures from the Avera Academy, Grand Prairie Foods, and then Vegan Construction over the last year, and then couple that with what we're doing at Career Connections. We do have Dr. Greg Talcott in the room really to kind of guide us through some of the things that we've been doing. But really, this session is going to talk about some simple things for all of you to do to start getting that talent that you need in your pipeline, maturing it, and getting it ready for you to hire. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with Valerie Laudenbach.
I sent a new picture, but I'm going with the one that's like 8 years old. Okay, I'll stick with that one. So I'm Valerie Laudenbach. I'm the co-owner of Grand Prairie Foods. The other co-owner is in the room. Do you need my mic? Okay. The other co-owners in the room, that's my partner back there, Kurt. So we're a manufacturing company here in town, and I look forward to answering questions and sharing our experiences.
Thank you. Then we're going to go to Chantel Krebs.
I'm a proud representative of Avera today, and I have several Avera folks with us, so give us a shout out there, wave your hands. Avera Health, and of course, specifically, I'll be talking about the Avera Academy program, which is a new program that I have designed and created for Avera, and now in its third year. So I'm excited to share with you what the progressiveness of this program that are for high schoolers and what it's done for us internally and for staffing needs. But not only that, recognizing the challenges in the community and how we can overcome some of those barriers and work more in line with those communities that we want to reach.
Thank you. And then finally we have Lucas Fegan.
Yeah, thank you. Lucas Fegan, I'm the Vice President and Director of Architecture at Fegan Construction. Third generation Fegan, my grandpa started the company, and I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about our partnership with local high school and getting students involved kind of in the industrial arts programs.
So, thank you. So, we're going to talk about the programs that we're running here, and we're going to actually start with Lucas and some of the things. So, one of the hardest things we can do, and I'm going to just kind of frame this, in 2008 to 2010, we lost over 1 million people within the construction industry. Okay, that was a huge deficit. Those employees, when we had a downturn in construction, never came back. They found other work. So when you talk about the development in these programs that we're running within our high schools, this is really an exciting program.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, there we go. Thanks, Denise. So our story kind of starts back, I was a graduate of O'Gorman High School back in 2006, and I had hands-on experience with the family business, from everything from pouring concrete to rough carpentry, you name it. But one of the easy classes I took, and at the time I took it because it was easy, was our shop class. And it was nothing more than, you show up and you had a project for the year, and that project for me was a bookcase. And so I built it. I don't think it ever got put up in our house. But that's all it was. There was, there was some hands-on skills involved in that, but there was nothing that I could take later in life and skills that I had learned. So fast forward, about 5 years ago, I am still involved with the O'Gorman School District and serve on a number of their boards. And the opportunity presented itself where in, just conversations with leadership over there, they had mentioned that they had lost their shop class. The instructor moved on. They didn't have students wanting to take the class anymore, and it just sort of fizzled out. And so, we started to get creative in our thinking about what that could look like if we were to, inject some life into a program. And so what we did was we presented the idea to their leadership team of partnering with them, getting the shop area kind of back up to, workable conditions, some new equipment, new shop lighting. And then it was, it was more than just that though. It was dealing with, what does that curriculum look like and who do you have lead that? And so they were very gracious in allowing us to sort of drive some of that, and so that we could make sure that it wasn't just bookcases and tables being made anymore. It was actually hands-on stuff that whether they piqued an interest and they could take into secondary school, or whether or not they just learned some skills that they could finish their basement when they were older. And so we partnered with them, we got the curriculum to where we wanted, and then one of the last things they asked us to do was to come speak on behalf of the program. So they brought in a professor, and we got in front of the students at orientation day and said, here's what this class is going to look like now. And I don't think they were ready for the excitement that it was going to bring. So they had, I think, 2 classes at the time, and so they could handle about 60 students, and they had 150 actually sign up for the class. So, it was something they weren't expecting, but that first year was, they built sawhorses, and then they built a shed. So I think there's a couple photos in here of the sheds that they built. I think in the first couple of years they built 4 or 5 sheds in which, they auctioned off at events later on. And, they learned the skills of framing a wall, framing a window, putting a door in, trimming things out, putting a roof on, shingling a roof. I mean, things that I was not taught in that class prior to our partnership with them. So they've expanded. That's, since we started this 5 years ago, they've expanded that curriculum. Now they have about 5 classes. They're teaching drafting. They're using digital processes like 3D printing. And all along the way, we're just kind of there for them. I think we take the opportunity, when we talk about the ROI, this wasn't something that we were looking to hire O'Gorman High School students. I mean, obviously there's a gap in hands-on skilled workforce in our industry, like Denise had alluded to. But this was just a creative way for us to think outside the box and maybe pique some interest so that some of these students would think about going into the industry. We've had success stories. The instructor has told us, a couple people were going to go to business school, and they've actually changed to construction management since then. So that was kind of the idea behind it. We do, each semester, we send a representative from Fegan to go out and talk about opportunities through STI and the AGC with pre-apprenticeship programs and carpentry classes that they can take after high school. So the conversation is continuing. And I think, again, it wasn't anything that we sought out. It was just a creative opportunity that, we sort of talked about in the boardroom and then executed with, the relationships that we had in place. So really proud of the program, proud of where, it's come in the last couple years. We've done some job site tours now, so we'll take the classes out and actually see a project be built. And then, added, instead of, we've built some sheds, now they're adding elements of like pouring concrete this semester. Next semester, they're gonna have a mason out there to set CMU walls. So we're looking for partners in that, in the construction industry, and just kind of expanding upon what we established 5 years ago.
And it's amazing because one of the things we're seeing, so we're experiencing a shift, right? We're getting a lot more diverse in our community. And one of the things we know is this is also coming at a time we're seeing also a shift from theoretical learning to more practical hands-on learning. That's why something like this really resonates with me as a parent, because I see my children being I have two 13, soon to be 14-year-old twin girls. They're very hands-on. They can do anything from reprogram all of our digital devices in our house to then set up doll houses where they're making them from scratch, right, with materials. So this is one of the things when we think about that ROI, sometimes maybe we don't see that early on. Maybe we have to really kind of get things up and running. But now we're seeing with the new generation that's in the high schools and also with these shifts in learning, where this is really a good time to invest, if you haven't already done so, into some type of program that provides that experiential learning. So, and you guys do it so well. And it's an exciting program. My kids are at the junior high, and we're already thrilled that they're going to be able to participate this at the high school level. So thank you. So we have a couple more slides here because what we wanted to do is really kind of frame this and show you these kids as they're engaged. Now we're going to turn this over to the Avera Academy, and I'm going to turn this over to our good friend and colleague, Chantel Krebs.
Thank you, Denise, and thanks for joining us today. I hope that we will provide some tips for you and into your workforce, but specifically in the areas of our youth. And the Avera Academy program is specifically that. First, it accomplishes our mission. The Avera mission is to make a positive impact into the lives and into our community in one way, shape, or another. And this is one program that we specifically touch our high school students, and we target specifically high school students that are incoming seniors that are low income or first generation Americans or some specific family situation that would be a qualified applicant. So Avera is proud to accomplish our mission in making that positive impact in our community. But the second part to the Avera Academy, which now in our third year, we have truly seen its fruits, is that it is creating, the Avera Academy is creating a pipeline. We are creating a pipeline for workers and our future employers, or excuse me, future employees within Avera currently working with us. And we know once they graduate from their healthcare education programs that they will want to come back and work with Avera. So those are the two missions that we've accomplished. Let me just tell you how we created Avera Academy in the application process so that you can get an idea of how you would do that in your businesses or places of employment. We just created an application process and we partnered with the Sioux Falls School District, the public school system. So they are incoming seniors. So they do apply their junior year. In fact, we just put the application out right now and that it's due by the end of this year because we want those students to be able to have the application received, and then we select them with the selection committee and notify them by February 1st so they can adjust their class schedules in their senior year according to the needs and the schedule of the Avera Academy. So that's why we start now. We start very early for that incoming senior year. Again, right now, selecting the 2021-22 graduating, excuse me, 22-23 graduating class. That's hard to say, 22-23 already, graduating class. So it's a selection process. We ask them in the application, are you interested in healthcare? Why are you interested? What would you want to benefit from this program? Tell us your interests. What areas of healthcare would you have a desire in? So they do have that personal touch with an essay. We ask for letters of recommendation. And then, of course, we have that selection committee review. Do they meet the criteria of our Avera mission, making sure that they're a low-income, first-generation American, a special family situation. Those guidance counselors at the school work with us to give us that feedback as well. We are very proud to say the countries represented are just extensive: Congo, Mexico, Liberia, Vietnam, El Salvador, Togo, Eritrea, Guatemala, Somalia, Egypt, the Standing Rock tribe, Choctaw, Yankton Sioux tribes, Sudan, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Kenya, Ukraine, Chile, and Africa. Those are some of the countries that are current and our previous classes have represented. And so it shows the diversity not only that's coming from the Sioux Falls School District, which is changing dramatically, but also our workforce. And we're proud at Avera to have that diversity and those needs. We need that workforce. And our patients that we serve, which is most important. So we're representing the patients that we serve as well. The curriculum, as far as the extensive curriculum, it's essentially a year-long program, and I coincide it with the school year. So Avera Health pays for the students to take dual credits at Southeast Tech. So every morning, Monday through Thursday, these students that were selected, and we select 24, we've had a lot of applications, we select 24, and we pay for their dual credits to attend Southeast Tech Monday through Thursday. Then they can go back to their home high schools in the afternoon and take their high school classes in order to graduate, their graduation credits. So dual credit, post-secondary classes in the morning, high school classes in the afternoon. Friday mornings, they're actually on campus with me and participating in the Avera Academy. And it's really an extensive job shadow program. We go in for 3 hours and we are hands-on into an area, whether it be the ED, the emergency department, ICU, NICU, whether it be women's center, the rehabilitation, physical therapy area. We are in 41 different departments and 34 Fridays. So every Friday throughout that school year, they are on site with us and they are experiencing hands-on. They wear the scrubs, they are denoted, they've taken the infection control, they're treated just like an employee with HIPAA and everything for compliance. So we're very proud that they are actually integrated into our facility, and our staff, they embrace them and let them come in and experience what they do on the job. And you can see right now, the upper left corner, they're actually at the McGreevy Clinic with a radiologist right there doing her work right there actually with that patient, just reading a result right there. They're over here in the lab services in the top right, doing some testing on samples of tests that would come through the lab from blood draws. Down here in the bottom right, they're in the operating room. You can see this is what a surgery technician, this young gentleman, first time he was ever into a surgery room, never been to a doctor. He is now an Avera Build candidate and graduate and is a surgery technician. That is exactly what this program does. So surgery technician roles, they got to see that operating room and watch operations on the screen. And then last over here in the robotics area, they could go in and see, of course, in the robotics area, surgery that happens as well. So very hands-on, as you can see, what these students experience of just some samples. So our curriculum, again, is every Friday, and these are just some of the samples that they get to do. Last but not least, I want to share with you the outcomes and stats. When I have 24 students every year, this is my third year, my first class, 82% went into healthcare. Now I want to stop and take a moment to think about that. You think that's a good number? Not compared to last year's graduating class, which 100% went to healthcare. But remember what happened in 2020, March of 2020. COVID hit. 5 of those students saw the dramatic impact of a pandemic, and they said, this is not for me. That pandemic actually impacted their decision-making process to not pursue healthcare. So that first class, 5 of the students that really thought they really wanted to go into healthcare ended up diverting and going into other areas. Last year's class, 100% went into healthcare. This year's class, so far, we're on track with 100% still remaining in healthcare. Out of that, I have almost, 10, 12, 22, 30 students out of the 44 that have graduated that are working for Avera right now as part-time or full-time. Some of them chose to graduate from high school last July. 2 of them are two full-time phlebotomists, the people that draw your blood. Several have chosen to go full-time into CNA work at our Prince of Peace, Avera Prince of Peace. The rest of them are part-time and then going to school at Southeast Tech or SDSU. So that is a direct impact that they see, like Denise said, hands-on equates to desire to be in your organization. The comments that they have shared with me of what the staff made for an impact and their decision-making process was profound. This is something that works when you put them in the environment. The staff gets to share their experiences, their challenges, why they chose the career, and that's the positive outcome. The other benefits that we're seeing in closing, I'll just share with you, is that, first of all, receive new patients and families. In this demographics, a trust and a building of a relationship with someone that may have never been into a healthcare facility or their family has never even gone to a doctor before. It achieves, again, our mission in getting into our community, making a positive impact in our lives. And last but not least is just a messaging that there are other jobs out there versus what most of these students would have probably never even known. And we are making them realize that they didn't have to go to work without going to school, or they could come to work with us without having to go to school, or go to school and work with us and achieve a dream that most of these students would never, ever imagined possible. The Avera Academy is a successful program.
So as we turn over and we're going to talk about the Career Connections program, and we're going to get, the conversation going with Valerie Londenbeck, one of the things, it's great, the Avera program, with the success they're having. When you think about healthcare, that's about 20% nationally of our economy, right? But we also have opportunities in financial services, in manufacturing. In fact, manufacturing, I just talked a minute ago, home building saw a loss of 1 million people. Manufacturing right now is experiencing a lot of technology transformation. And so we think about what we're being able to do with a lot of the talent and really help draw that interest out and then apply that to an employer. That's where we're going to go next with Career Connections and Valerie Lauder-Rebeck.
Does this, okay. So I'm running a company every day, and how many of you in the audience are responsible for recruiting and making sure that people are in your organization? Okay. Okay, keep your hands up. And now I'd also like to add that you are now being asked to worry about workforce development. Who wants to sign up for that? Okay, all right, so I say that because I understand, coming from a talent-seeking perspective, that I'm trying to find people to run my business. And at the same time, how can I be asked to find the time to also then dedicate to developing the workforce? I'm going to explain how you can do that, and I'm going to put in a real good plug for Career Connections, okay? So hopefully at the end of this, you'll be catching up here and talking to Denise and saying, I want to participate. So of the 300 people that work for me, probably over not 200, maybe about 150 positions are going to be low-skilled production positions, okay? They are going to be on the line, requiring very little education at all. However, what I do provide, though, is a job and an organization that people want to come to work in every day, okay? Just because it's a job that requires limited skill and little educational background does not in any way means that it cannot be a rewarding job for people to come to, okay? And I think you would all agree with that. So one of the things that I thought about when they asked us to do Career Connections, and it was a big commitment last year, it's now less, so make note of that, was that why would I do this? And I am in great awe of Chantel's program and Lucas's program, but Career Connections was not going to bring those kids to me, and I knew that. So my reason for participating was, Kurt and I have a focus in our community, focus for our business, and it is to enrich our community. Okay? And you do that through a variety of means. You enrich your community by creating a business that provides earning opportunities for 300 families, which then translates to about how many thousand people, right? But you also do things that you may not personally benefit from as a company, but you know others will benefit from. So when the kids came to visit us at Grand Prairie Foods, I thought it was a great opportunity for them to see firsthand and meet people who have built a business. And what does that mean when you own your own business and build your own business? The other really interesting piece we had to share is we were able to get them on the manufacturing floor, but then meet a young lady named Rachel, who was a high school junior when she came to work for us in the summer, worked with us her entire high school year as a Lincoln High School senior because she did it virtually, then stayed with us through the summer, and then progressed up to SDSU to start her career. Now, do I think Rachel will be my long-term production line employee? No. But was she an awesome addition to my organization for 2 years? Absolutely. And Dr. Talcott, you heard her speak about how, and this was a young Caucasian woman, how she was able to immerse herself and benefit from the diverse work environment there. And so to me, that was a direct contribution to increasing my, enriching my community through her, but then what she also brought to the company and then was able to share as well. And we've had the opportunity, there's a young lady here that I ran into today, Audrey, who, and many of these individuals are coming from large families and they have demands on their time at home. I have to be home at 3 o'clock. I'm sorry, my shift ends at 4 and you're not leaving until 4. That's the rules of the company. I got to go home to take care of my brothers and sisters at 3 o'clock. I will make that accommodation for you. And I put in my stern, you will follow the rule voice, if you know what I said. But we talk about some of the flexibility when we're working with some of these families. They have needs that may not fit into our regular, very structured environment. And how flexible can we be? And it's harder. Someone asked the pointed question about that in manufacturing. It can't be a come and go as you want necessarily environment. But this young lady worked with us all summer. And she comes and works on Saturdays now, and we made the accommodation for her to leave early. And she has now signed up to take her ACT, and her plan is not to work on my production line all the time, but she will go to something else that will enhance the community, all right? But they've both come out of backgrounds where their parents were located in manufacturing or non-secondary education positions. So when the kids come into us at Career Connections, I ask them 3 questions. What's most important to you? Money, your satisfaction in your job, or your community? We don't talk about Grand Prairie Foods. We don't talk about where you're going to end up. And Denise and I had this conversation. I really don't think the word career is what you're talking about when you're 18. I like the word workforce participation. You know, because that's really what you're doing. And so, and Dr. Talcott, you sat in our program, so we spent a lot of time talking about that, and it was in a very engaging dialogue, because you're engaging with them on a platform that has nothing to do with being self-serving about trying to find people to come work for you. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, I'm all about getting good people to come to work for me. But it was, we'd allow them to ask questions. We brought our CEO into the room, and, you know, some person's first question is, how much money do you make, you know? And that's a legitimate question. You know, he didn't answer it, but one of the questions we did have is, let's talk about the kind of money you think you need to earn and how much you need to live on. So you see the signs for McDonald's at $13. Let's multiply that out. Well, do you know the multiplier to a full-time job? Okay, it's 2,080, and where do we get that from? Da, 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 da. So here you're gonna make $27,000 a year. Wow, that sounds like a lot. And then you start having conversations about how that is allocated and what your budget needs to be, and start making decisions. So when they make a decision about where to work and how much they're going to be paid, they may comfortably be able to understand 13 is good, 14 is 15, but in all, you know, in all fairness, most of those young individuals were not to that point yet. And so our time was talking about real life situations and things that relate beyond just the day-to-day stuff in the job. And I think it was beneficial for those who were participating. So how that benefits me as Grand Prairie Foods is, first of all, Denise has crafted an excellent program that is not time intensive or resource intensive. And so people will come and they'll visit your company, they'll learn about your organization, and then you have the opportunity. So for me, you saw me up there earlier saying, if I can find 1 or 2 people, it's a win for me. If I can find 1 person who might join us. I will say, I'll throw this out there too, this is just one of the little pots I have to stir, and if you're all in HR, you know you're stirring all these pots. Where are you gonna find people, right? So some of the other pots we stir that have kind of related to this is we'll use the South Dakota, Build South Dakota program. We have a young lady right now who started working for me as a high schooler at Washington. She's now gonna work on her bachelor's degree. She will be joining our HR department when she graduates in a couple years. Right now, she's stepped into a sort of a supervisory role. She's our homegrown, and we do that as well. So we're kind of stirring all these pots, but what I really like to do is, instead of me and Kurt be the face who's talking to these individuals, is I have my Jenny come in, or my John come in, or my Rachel, or my Audrey, and they talk to the individuals and to the young people, because they are a more meaningful conveyor of information than me as to, well, how do I make a decision about where I want to work? And I'll just end by saying, it's a privilege for me to have anybody start their work participation at Grand Prairie Foods. And if that means that's for 6 months, great. If it's for a year, great. And then if they go on and they become a med tech over at Avera, or they become someone for you, awesome. Because I had a part in contributing to that. So, all right.
And that is so true, because what we're doing here, and one of the things we talk a lot about, is the need. So Career Connections created to define a path in front of somebody. We're taking kids where they have a natural interest, but they don't know how to apply that in the workforce. And so therefore, when they see themselves in higher ed, they really don't, because they haven't gotten to the point to know what could be possible. So we take kids and we expose them to all these different experiences. And whether it is Grand Prairie Foods or Marmon Energy or vegan construction, or even if we say, you know what, we're determining that you have a lot of interest in healthcare, great, Avera, that's helping them, because the one thing we don't want to see is we don't want to see people that have a lot of potential, but they never realize it. And so working within the high schools to develop that and coming alongside, and as many people as we can have that join this conversation, we're just going to be better off as employers. So we have recruited about 46 employers now. That's what makes it a lot easier. We do so, and Dr. Greg Talcott, who is the former principal at Brandon Valley High School, comes alongside, and we meet and we do a lot of assessments. We do a lot of surveys. We talk to these kids. We find out things like today, having them at this luncheon and really giving them a seat at the table, and having our mayor, Paul Tenhagen, say, you know what, I care about what you have to say, because guess what? You are making the determination of what the city looks like, not only now, but in the future. That's really the conversation. And so as employers, we're all changing to that, and we're all seeing that it is not really an employer market. It's really an employee market. And we also have to have more ways to show that we're going to develop the talented people that we have. One of the things we're talking about in a couple of the other sessions, and this is one of the trends, is that we don't see higher ed really being in a lot of pathways in the future, okay? So I want to talk about how some of your companies are going to come alongside of people. I like to say that higher ed is not really a one-time off and on. It really is where, just based on the fact that we're seeing a lot of technology transform entire industries, that people are going to make these investments several times, and that's the difference. It's not that they're going to make it once and they're done. They're going to make it over and over. So Lucas, talk about sort of the investment you make in yourself, because as an architect, there's a lot of professional development, but also how do you take somebody that comes on maybe at your team, maybe it's a seasonal part-time job, and then come alongside of them as they develop and they mature, you also have other opportunities for them.
Yeah, I think it's important from a standpoint of, we're seeing a lot of, in the construction industry, we're seeing a lot of people go to secondary school for construction management, and they want to come out of school and be a project manager, sit in an office and run a job. And the struggle there is that, they're very green. We need them to get that hands-on experience. I mean, we've talked, today about getting in the high school level and piquing interest, but I think what we've done too is, rather than hiring them on and just trusting that their skill set is good enough to run a $10 million facility, we want them to get in the field. So internally, we've done a lot of, we'll hire a construction management student and we'll put them in the field alongside of our longer tenured site superintendents, so they can see a job being built from the ground up. And then, after a year or two, transition to that project management role where they can then run, some of the coordination they've done in the field from an office standpoint, work on contracts and get that knowledge. But I think it's continual, growth in what they've learned and applying that in the field first and then taking it a step further.
Absolutely. And some of the times, I have a couple brothers that started in the construction company. My father actually went from being an oil gas engineer and then retired, went to open up his own construction companies, and guess what? All of my family was in the construction company. But what I've seen with my own brothers' careers is that they've been able to transfer those career experiences and those skills and those competencies that they developed into other areas. So they've gone well beyond, but again, it was having that entry point and then that development point and being able to get to that. When we think about opportunities, sometimes when we have people that are getting ready to graduate from college right in this room, you may not work for the same employer for the rest of your lives. You may not work in the same industry for the rest of your lives. And that's why Valerie, when she was talking about the investment and how you come alongside, can you talk about some of the people that you've had in your organizations that have come, and then you do help them, and you see that growth and you see that change, but you do it because you are involved in the community, and we want these people to stay here. And so we take care of them.
And I'm sitting here thinking too about some of the people who have worked with me forever, and some of the examples that they set for the youngsters that are coming in. Because one of the conversations we had at the lunch table is some of the expectations that we have in the workplace. One, that you come to work, and every day would be a really good thing too. So, so learning those, I don't know if they call them soft skills, but for people who have worked on in our production facility for 10 or 15 years, they set a really good example for the young folks that are coming in. And that's a really good lesson for them to learn. What is the expectation for me? And when I say come to work every day, that means something, but it doesn't mean something as much as Edgar, who says it every day, because he can tell how important it is if you're not there on the line. So some of the things that we have done is to accommodate with flexible schedules if we can. So what I've found is that a two manufacturing marriage is actually pretty productive. And some of us are biting our nails in this town because there are how many manufacturing jobs are coming to town in the next 5 years, Kurt? 3,000 or 4,000. So we all can't start our shift at 7 and end at 3. Okay? We all don't have child care. So what I like is to try and be flexible. If I know that the Smithfield shift is going to start at 4, then maybe it's okay if my person starts at 5. Try to be receptive to some of those kinds of things. It is not easy when you start to make exceptions for folks, but if you can make flexibility, then that helps out. The other thing, some of the things that we've done is to be, and this is easier for us than maybe a large organization, is to give time away from work, to let someone be gone for several months because they need to be. Some of the things we've done is given access to some resources if people have needed it. I have bought about 2 pairs of dentures for people too, and they look good, I must say. But so we can do things as a company that others cannot. But for me, that's what can make a big difference as well. And one of the things I really like to do is when I hire people, I like to say, you know what? Maybe you're not going to like it here, and maybe. I never say maybe we're not going to like you. Maybe it won't be the fit for you, and maybe we won't be the fit for you. Why don't you come and visit with us as my paid guest for a couple days and see how it goes? That's a great way to do it. And sometimes it works out and sometimes not. You don't want to find out after 3 days of orientation that that person is not the person you want. So we're trying to be really creative. And one of the things I would love to do as a business community is not keep those little ideas all to myself, but share them with other individuals. And that's part of the workforce development that I think we could do. What are those great ideas? What are the resources we could share? And so.
Absolutely. And I remember all the stories because, of course, we talk about the people in our community that have these wonderful ladders and journeys, and we celebrate them. And we learn that people go from a production level into a manager level, and we've done some stories with Joni Schwann's about that. So, so great. Thank you for all of that. Chantel, I'm going to ask you about, because you have kids that are coming in, and then some of them will identify that they don't want to stay within the patient care model. What do you do then for them? Because as a very large organization with a lot of innovation going on, you guys have a lot of great jobs in human resources and finance, and then also technology. How does that play in? Because you guys really have, when you take on an employee, you have a great professional development program all the way around. So how does that work?
Good question, Denise, because I think Avera offers several opportunities to develop within themselves as far as their career and professional development, whether it be with Avera long-term or, like Valerie said, into the community in other areas. A couple things that we have, and we do work with our students or our part-time staff or even full-time staff, is number one, maybe you start out as a CNA, a certified nurse assistant at the nursing home, but you aspire to become a registered nurse. We support them with tuition reimbursement. I think tuition reimbursement is the best way to encourage someone that doesn't maybe feel confident right away to get into that workforce. Like Valerie said, just kind of touch it a little bit, see if it's right, but then see the opportunities because they see the other employees there and they hear from them and then realize that they can do that job that they might not have been confident to do originally. So encouraging them to start, but going alongside of them and being flexible and helping them with tuition reimbursement. That'd be the number one thing. Number two is, for this program specifically, like you asked, Denise, ooh, do I want to be direct care? They might have thought, and most students think in our particular program, that all the hospital is doctors and nurses, right? So when they get there, they don't realize that 90% of the jobs in the hospital are not doctors and nurses, because that's the statistic. So that's the beauty of this program when I'm in 41 different departments, is that we get to see maintenance, security, finance, reimbursements, medical coding. And I have several students that are examples out of these two last classes. One is in IT, and now he's at Case Western University in Ohio in software engineering, wants to be back at Avera in their IT department because of the program in 2019 that he saw the IT, or the information technology, rotation, and he got to see how extensive. He was a worker, an employee. He set up all the new computers when we transferred opened up the Avera on Louise Hospital. He was one of the students and employees that actually did all the computer setup. So here is a young man that is not direct patient care. Another example is last year's student, Maxim from Jefferson, or New Tech High School at that time. Maxim was not at all interested in direct care, but he is going to Augustana College and pursuing healthcare administration. He is now a part-time employee as a receptionist at our Behavioral Health Addiction Center. So he's learning those soft skills while he's working with people coming in the door, and he gets to see that management behind the scenes and then going to school. Great young man. I know he will for sure be a clinic manager someday. Great young man that we have. So those are examples. Number one, showing them that all those different types of jobs, but then also giving the confidence that they don't have to start and be an RN or a healthcare administrator right off the bat, because there's a lot of confidence and there's a lot of things that they don't realize what it takes to get there, but then they see from others by hearing from our employees of how that path got them into those careers, and then we help them with tuition reimbursement. So those are the threefold things. I hope I answered your question, Denise.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just wonderful, like, again, to see the coverage of all of the people that you're serving across, because 330 locations, that's a lot. So thank you. You know, I want to turn this over. We have approximately 10 minutes right now, and we have a really good group of people here. Do we have any questions from the audience? And I want to kind of make this casual. I know that we're being filmed right now, so no worries about that. I'll go ahead and you can stay in the back, and then I'll kind of rephrase the questions. But I do want to get some involvement, because, you know, the reason why we're doing so much programming for this Win in Workforce on talent development is we have a great size within our community of kids that if we can come along, we can solve some of our workforce issues, right? So with that, I'm going to open it up. And I know Dr. Talcott has probably one or two questions that he would like to ask. And we help each other because really what we're hearing from the kids today, they all want to be engaged. So we're engaging them. And then let's work together so that we can get them that path. It's a success when they go into Avera. It's a success when they go into Grand Prairie, into Fegan Construction, right? That's where we know we have identified an interest, and then we have a support system that can come alongside of them and really have these kids see and bring their own interests into that fruition. So yeah, it's great. So we want to leave with, we have a video that shows really the essence of the pilot last year, captures that firsthand narrative with a kid that now is at Southeast Technical College. He really had his plans disrupted. He always thought he was going to do one thing in life. And then, as we heard from Chad Greenway, sometimes that doesn't happen, but now is doing really well as a freshman at Southeast Technical College, and we just couldn't be prouder of him.
Your next grade employees could be getting ready to graduate from high school, and now there's a new way to connect with them.
What we have noticed is that we have a lot of kids that are currently in school, in high school, without having plans in front of them. They don't know what they want to do after graduation. So what this program does is it helps to find what their natural interests are, aligns them to an industry, an occupation, a career path, and then comes alongside of them with educational support to be able to obtain that.
The Sioux Falls Development Foundation launched its Career Connections program this fall on a pilot scale with nearly 60 students, 5 employers, and 3 school districts. First Premier Bank was one of them.
For 2 Fridays, we'd have the same group of students that we could talk about our company, talk about our industry, talk about career opportunities. And then those 2 weeks, and then we'd have another group of students rotate through, and that was for the first semester. In the second semester, those students got to identify which industry or which company they wanted to pursue. And so then they are full-time on Fridays coming to Premier.
One of those students is Thaddeus Knigge, a senior at New Tech High School who wants to own his own business eventually, but realizes he needs to learn more about business first.
It was amazing, and First Premier kind of stuck out to me in a way that I could blow my knowledge up in entrepreneurship with also understanding the banks aspect of when I come in and I want a loan or something for my business, really truly that way.
He now meets one-on-one with Vice President of Business Banking, Pam Hanneman.
Kind of opens their eyes that, you know, you might be thinking about one thing today, but certainly those career paths can change over time. So I think it's very important for students to see that. Plus, it's great for me. I totally enjoy getting to meet these new young leaders that are going to be our future workforce. We've got some great talented individuals right here in our community. And if we can figure out ways to keep them here, it's just going to be better for all of us.
I met amazing people. Their staff is great. They're fun. They're funny to work with. They're just welcoming and everything, and they're willing to share their knowledge.
High schoolers also got a look inside Grand Prairie Foods, a new employer to many of them.
I don't need hundreds of people, but I could benefit from 2 to 3 very intentional recruitments and developments, and so it's perfect for us.
She begins by asking the students to think about what's important to them in a career: money, job satisfaction, or commitment to community.
So we start kind of high level, and then I ask the very obvious question: how many of you have ever thought of manufacturing or have ever been encouraged by your parents to go into manufacturing? And that's a pretty blunt question because the answer usually is no. And I know that to be the case, and then we challenge them on that. We say, well, why is that? Because you think it's something that isn't as important as another occupation? And then we get into the conversation about what we do. They get to learn from people who work with us.
And it seemingly doesn't take long before students form strong impressions.
This Career Connection program is an amazing program. Every student should really take it and take that opportunity for it. You get to learn it through businesses, and some of the businesses that was part of this program I've never heard of. And it was kind of fun to understand what they do and what they do at a national level, almost a global level.
The people that I've interacted with, they're great students, they're very focused, they're goal-oriented, they've got ideas of their own, which it's fun for me to see.
After you spend an hour with them, you are just, I mean, it's invigorating, and it's a connection with young people. So I would highly encourage all employers to do it, for sure.
Next school year, the Development Foundation hopes to bring many more employers into the Career Connections program. The Development Foundation handles all the logistics, including connecting students with employers. More than 400 students already are signed up to participate next school year, so businesses will find talent looking to learn about them.
We're making a meaningful difference with these kids, coming alongside of them, giving them that opportunity that wouldn't be there but for the fact of this Forward Sioux Falls sponsored program. And that is really powerful.
So with that, I'd like to thank Chantel Krebs from Avera, Valerie Laudenbach from Grand Prairie Foods, and also Lucas Vegan from Vegan Construction. Thank you. This concludes the program for today.
The University of Sioux Falls campus got a little more crowded recently as the school played host to the 3rd annual Talent Draft Day, organized by the Sioux Falls Development Foundation.
We had a great day at the University of Sioux Falls with 11 different types of experiences that we offered throughout the day, but really focusing in on what would it be like for those high school students to be on that campus? What would it be like for all of the talented college students throughout really the nation that logged on? What would it be like to work here in Sioux Falls?
The morning focused on middle and high school students from 16 schools, a kickoff from Mayor Paul Tenhagen, and a high-energy, immersive start to the day.
We brought about 78 students here today to just explore the different career pathways that are available on USF's campus.
I'm looking to be an illustrator when I'm older, and that's why I'm exploring all the visual arts they have to offer here today.
So what did you think about the program?
I thought it was very interactive and very fun. It kept students engaged, and they did a great job explaining things in depth.
They compared it to a college visit on steroids.
It was very much an interactive presentation for learners where they could experience what those classes are look like and get a first-hand account of what it's like to sit in the classroom here at USF, and that's a very unique and special experience. Sometimes I think learners think that maybe a 4-year institution or a 2-year institution isn't for me, but this opens the doors to pathways that maybe kids didn't think they would want to try.
I think it's helped me decide whether or not I do want to go to college or not, and just gave me an idea of what college I would kind of like to go to.
I'm just very honored that our campus was able to do this. We consider Sioux Falls obviously to be our home, it's our namesake, and we believe very strongly that we need to positively contribute to the very community that supports our existence, the community and region.
Some high schoolers stayed for the afternoon when they were joined by USF students who took on a speed networking session with area employers.
For college students, it's a little bit different than for high school students. For high school students, it's all about the social skills, the soft skills that they're practicing. For the college students, it's all about making that connection to an employer, getting that internship.
There's a lot of different jobs in Sioux Falls and a lot of different varieties, so getting here to mingle and talk to other people and network just gives me an opportunity to talk with them, see what they're about, and other jobs that they have open and careers that I could potentially be in.
I think what it does is it brings their education to life, because the theoretical constructs that happen in the classroom are necessary for building your knowledge, but finding your skill sets and dispositional attributes that go into the workplace, the best way you can do that is to have good conversations with people in the field. And so that's the real benefit, that experiential learning component for our students.
So we know that the development of employability skills or soft skills are really important, and just being able to have those conversations and open doors with those employers is a big leg up for our kids, and we're really excited to be here.
And what you don't see on campus is the huge participation in Talent Draft Day nationwide. Students representing 252 colleges logged on for a virtual interactive panel discussion.
For them, we followed up on what's it like to get an internship with one of our employers? What's the right way to apply? What's the advice that you have for somebody when they are applying? What's the proper follow-up?
And speaking of follow-up, that's what the Development Foundation will be doing with the nearly 2,800 students reached during Talent Draft Day.
So the goal coming out for colleges, when we have this great of a participation across such a large spectrum of really disciplines that we need to have here, we want to see these kids in internships with our employers this coming summer. And so we've already identified close to 5,000 students that have an interest in working in the Midwest. Our goal is to bring them here and get them tied into an employer. That's our next step.
Your next grade employees could be getting ready to graduate from high school, and now there's a new way to connect with them.
What we have noticed is that we have a lot of kids that are currently in school, in high school, without having plans in front of them. They don't know what they want to do after graduation. So what this program does is it helps to find what their natural interests are, aligns them to an industry, an occupation, a career path, and then comes alongside of them with educational support to be able to obtain that.
The Sioux Falls Development Foundation launched its Career Connections program this fall on a pilot scale with nearly 60 students, 5 employers, and 3 school districts. First Premier Bank was one of them.
For 2 Fridays, we'd have the same group of students that we could talk about our company, talk about our industry, talk about career opportunities. And then those 2 weeks, and then we'd have another group of students rotate through, and that was for the first semester. In the second semester, those students got to identify which industry or which company they wanted to pursue. And so then they are full-time on Fridays coming to Premier.
One of those students is Thaddeus Knigge, a senior at New Tech High School who wants to own his own business eventually, but realizes he needs to learn more about business first.
It was amazing, and First Premier kind of stuck out to me in a way that I can blow my knowledge up in entrepreneurship with also understanding the bank aspect of when I come in and I want a loan or something for my business, really truly that way.
He now meets one-on-one with Vice President of Business Banking, Pam Hanneman.
Kind of opens their eyes that, you know, you might be thinking about one thing today, but certainly those career paths can change over time. So I think it's very important for students to see that. Plus, it's great for me. I totally enjoy getting to meet these new young leaders that are going to be our future workforce. We've got some great, talented individuals right here in our community. And if we can figure out ways to keep them here, it's just going to be better for all of us.
I met amazing people. Their staff is great. They're fun. They're funny to work with. They're just welcoming and everything, and they're willing to share their knowledge.
High schoolers also got a look inside Grand Prairie Foods, a new employer to many of them.
I don't need hundreds of people, but I could benefit from 2 to 3 very intentional recruitments and developments, and so it's perfect for us.
She begins by asking the students to think about what's important to them in a career: money, job satisfaction, or commitment to community.
So we start kind of high level, and then I ask the very obvious question: how many of you have ever thought of manufacturing or have ever been encouraged by your parents to go into manufacturing? And that's a pretty blunt question because the answer usually is no. And I know that to be the case, and then we challenge them on that. We say, well, why is that? Because you think it's something that isn't as important as another occupation? And then we get into the conversation about what we do. They get to learn from people who work with us.
And it seemingly doesn't take long before students form strong impressions.
This Career Connection program is an amazing program. Every student should really take it and take that opportunity for it. You get to learn it through businesses, and some of the businesses that was part of this program I've never heard of. And it was kind of fun to understand what they do and what they do at a national level, almost a global level.
The people that I've interacted with, they're great students, they're very focused, they're goal-oriented. They've got ideas of their own, which it's fun for me to see.
After you spend an hour with them, you are just, I mean, it's invigorating, and it's a connection with young people. So I would highly encourage all employers to do it, for sure.
Next school year, the Development Foundation hopes to bring many more employers into the Career Connections program. The Development Foundation handles all the logistics, including connecting students with employers. More than 400 students already are signed up to participate next school year, so businesses will find talent looking to learn about them.
We're making a meaningful difference with these kids, coming alongside of them, giving them that opportunity that wouldn't be there but for the fact of this Forward Sioux Falls sponsored program. And that is really powerful.
Nearly 60% of the U.S. population will move this year. Why are so many people packing up their belongings and making a move to a new city or state? Better job opportunities. Over 40 businesses are hiring right now. That's why the Sioux Falls Development Foundation created Work Sioux Falls, a local resource that gives job seekers an inside track to jobs that are open right now. See the difference a local company can make. Visit SiouxFalls.com/work.
The #1 city for best small places for business and careers according to Forbes magazine, Sioux Falls.
Work Sioux Falls.
ZipRecruiter's #3 hottest job market, Sioux Falls.
Work Sioux Falls.
Over 40 businesses are hiring right now.
Work Sioux Falls.
That's why the Sioux Falls Development Foundation created Work Sioux Falls, a local resource that gives job seekers an inside track to jobs that are open right now.
Work Sioux Falls.
See the difference a local company can make in your career. Visit siouxfalls.com/work.
In the 1880s, courageous sisters came to Dakota Territory on a mission. Nothing fazed them when it came to founding our ministry. Today, Avera has that same tradition of determination. We're reaching you in new ways. Virtual health and smartphone visits. Clinics conveniently located in your neighborhoods. No matter what the future holds, our passion for progress will never fade.
At Premier, it's about doing what's right for our customers, employees, and communities, giving our time and resources to support what matters most: academics and athletics, arts and entertainment, families and economic development. When you have the right people, financial solutions, and a spirit of service, you build one of the nation's strongest financial organizations. First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card. Investing in you. Member FDIC.
So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like everybody to meet my co-moderator. This is Hugo Barron. Hugo is the new Executive Director for the Sioux Empire Housing Partnership. So let's give him, this is actually his first formal event. Let's give him a nice round of applause.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
So we're going to take care of some housekeeping tips. We will have time for Q&A afterwards. We do have a large audience that's online, so they are going to be sending their emails and their requests to me directly. So we're going to do that, but I do want to get to our panel here today and sort of open up this topic. The reason why we're here, and you guys can read the description, is we really, across the entire nation, have a housing, you could either say crisis, challenge, opportunity.
Shortage, yes,
right?
opportunity as well.
And so when we think about how we're working together as a community and we're bringing a lot of different businesses here and a lot of different needs, we're going to talk today about, with our experts, some of the things that they're seeing that other communities are doing that they'd like to see here, some of the things they are involved in, and then talk about what it really means to have a home, okay? We will have a case study that we will provide to everyone. We're not going to run the video. The case study is actually an employer that's invested $150 million into a community to keep people there and to build a community. The reason why we've chosen this case study is because we are seeing a lot of inbound migration from California. And so as people leave California because they can't find suitable, livable, sustainable housing, we are now on the receiving end of that, right? So I will show this video to you guys later, but it's something that we're not going to take time now to run. We are going to do the other three, and that is to understand how communities are addressing workforce housing. So workforce housing is not necessarily accessible, affordable housing, and we're going to talk about that today. Identify what our community's greatest needs are for housing, so we will do that. We'll get each one of these experts to kind of talk about from their perspective what they're seeing, okay, and frame that question. And then we're going to engage them and what types of activities that they're seeing, what types of plans that they're involved in. We do have somebody from each one of the interesting business partnerships that really makes up a community housing, really,
yes,
profile. So, with that, I'd like to start. I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to introduce themselves, talk about their role. And we're going to start with Mr. Jeff Eckhoff.
Thanks, Denise. I'm Jeff Eckhoff. I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services for the City of Sioux Falls, and the Housing Division for the city is in our department. We manage the HUD funds that we get from the federal government, as well as some of the new housing funds that the City Council has made available to us for next year, and I'll talk about that as we get into the session.
My name is Chris Vincent. I'm the CEO of the mortgage division for Plains Commerce Bank. It's kind of fun to be able to talk about housing and programs. I can tell you that I feel blessed to be in South Dakota. We lend in almost every state in the U.S., and I feel like South Dakota has a lot of advantages, so I'm excited to talk about that.
I'm Jeff Nelson with 605 Real Estate here in Sioux Falls, and also a member of the Mayor's Accessible Housing Advisory Board. And we'll talk more about accessible versus workforce and affordable in a few minutes.
I'm Joan Franken. I'm one of the owners and the managing director for Costello Companies. And all they do is develop, build, manage, and do the compliance for, I will call it, affordable housing communities. I've been with them for 26 years. I've seen a number of changes in that industry. We also have land developments that were in and around the city of Sioux Falls and smaller communities outside the city of Sioux Falls that we developed, put the infrastructure in, but sell it to contractors or single-family homeowners that want to build a home, commercial, light industrial. And then we manage these affordable housing complexes in 3 states. We've got 5,200 units that we manage. So definitely in the housing market, the housing industry, this is what we live and breathe every day.
It's a good thing I'm last because I think I'm just up here to bring the looks down a little bit. So my name's Tom Jardine. This year's couple more months as president of our local Home Builders Association, and then family construction business that's been in business since '76. So run that with my brother now. So.
Thank you, guys. And this is where we're going to talk today. We have questions that have been submitted by through the Relocation or Recruitment Council. That is one of the initiatives that we have at the Sioux Falls Development Foundation that really looks at different areas from talent development, talent attraction, to best practices. So we're going to go ahead and get started if that's okay. I'm going to open this up, and I'd like to ask each one of you, what do you think is the biggest gap right now within our community as far as housing? And I guess I can ask first, Tom, let's start with you. What do you think is the biggest gap within our housing community?
So I'll answer that first with a little, I mean, our history as a company has historically been much more on the custom home building side of things, but just thinking through growing up around the business and our company in particular, I know thinking back, 20, 25 years, probably even 15, it was easier for us to be much more competitive on a broader scale of a price point when a customer reaches out. I mean, that has shrunk in the last probably 10 years and intensified in the last 5 to where, long answer to your question, I think it's that when we were talking this beforehand, you move above the affordable, and I think we have a gap between that second buy for those affordable owners at some point, as well as like your young professionals. So, I mean, a dollar amount, some of these people will probably know a little bit closer, but off the top of my head, I would say in that probably 350 to 450, especially on the new construction side, seems to be a hard spot to hit. So.
You're going to go right down the line.
Go right down the line.
So, okay, in my opinion, and I'm also on the Mayor's Accessible Housing Advisory Board, but so we develop apartment complexes and target 30% to 60% area median income. We don't do very many units at 30 and 40%. We do the minimum unless we get money, I will say, from the city of Sioux Falls or the community that we are building the apartment complex in to target lower AMIs. There's a housing study that's been recently done, and it will show that there's a big need for more housing for those at or below 40% of the area median income. There's a need in general, and I had said this last week at another event that I spoke at, that the crisis mode from 1 to 10 is for me at a 10 because, again, we're in it every day. So that 60% and below, we still have a great need, and we can't build enough of that in our state. There are limited funds. But you get, and I call it the missing middle, the 60 to 120% of area median income. That's really tough too. And there are developers out there that are doing that in that workforce housing realm. And I say we go down to 50% for workforce housing. But that too, that's a limited number, and those rents are going up right now because construction costs and the demand out there, they can charge the higher rent. Briefly on single family lots, we don't have all the infrastructure in right now for a street with 26 lots out in Hartford, but we've got a long list of people that want those lots and could probably sell out this fall. So that single family housing, and I would say when you're talking about that higher, or the level that you talked about, first time home buyer is 250 right now, 280. Talking with the South Dakota Housing Development Authority, with that, they are having a hard time for people finding homes in that price range or even below that are quality homes. So our need is great wherever. So the biggest need, it's hard for me to pinpoint on that, and we'll get some more opinions on that.
And before we go to Jeff, I do want to add, so one of the things in preparing for this session, Hugo and I looked at analysis. So 23.9% increase over the last decade overall in construction spending. If you look at labor, our labor has increased in major, many markets. Minneapolis is seeing every quarter where their increase in labor is 1 to 3%, which is really high. But lumber last year went into double digits and really went up because of restrictions with getting things into our country. So cost right now for developers, especially with those long-term projects, that is an issue. So thank you for that, Joan. Jeff.
Certainly, there's a big gap at 60, 50% below. And the struggle, of course, is the wages that they, and to be in that world, and the ability to pay, and the costs, especially today, just don't line up. And so that's what the HUD, like the CDBG and the home funds and those programs, tax credits, low-income housing tax credits are used for. But those resources have not increased by any way, shape, or measure to keep up. So you've got that gap at that end, and Michelle can sure speak to that. I mean, that's, if you look at the population of South Dakota based on this housing study we just had done, 43% of the population of Sioux Falls is at or below the 80% AMI. So 80% you can get there. You might not live exactly where you want, but as you get lower, and then there's this emerging gap that's kind of that first-time home buyer that used to be 225, 240-ish, that is now up to 280, 300-ish, and so and the wages haven't been commensurate with that, so that creates that gap at that point too. I was in Spearfish a couple weeks ago, and they gave us a tour of a new housing development they're doing, and it's locked. I mean, there was a TIF, and there were some city funds put in and injected, and it's 150-ish lots. And there are a number of 275, number 250, and number 225. And the 150 lots, they've got the streets, and they don't have a single foundation dug, and they have a waiting list of about 240 people.
So the one takeaway, and this is where whenever I get asked about housing, and people really kind of personalize it here with what we're experiencing in Sioux Falls, because we are experiencing amazing growth. It's not just here in Sioux Falls, it's a national conversation right now. We have close to 12 million people, because of cost of materials, that can't afford homes. That's just an adjustment that's been made because of the rise in costs. So I do want to get to Jeff Nelson, and I'll do a better job moderating with Hugo about identifying Jeff Elkoff from Jeff Nelson. That's right.
Nope. Jeff Nelson, could you tell us about your clients, what information can you give us about that?
Well, we've certainly seen an increase in people coming from out of state. And when you ask them why they're coming here, there's less people. They talk about freedom all the time. And I think that's a relative term. Perception's reality, you know, so. You know, it seems like most of the people that we work with are 350 and above for the most part. But entry level still is 300,000 for the most part. And at that case, Chris and I were talking beforehand, you got to have two people making $20 an hour to be able to afford a $300,000 house. And I don't know how many $20 an hour jobs are out there. There may be more. But the biggest problem is an inventory problem. And part of that has to do with the number of people that are coming in with labor. We have an inventory problem with land. And when I say land, that's also infrastructure, because it's very expensive to put infrastructure in. And the other thing we have is an inventory problem with the product. And that has to do with new construction. It has to do with existing. And I think sometimes we talk way too much about what we want for a home. And in this market and across the country, a home is where you live. It's not necessarily a house that you own. And so Joan rents homes out to people, and they're in apartment buildings sometimes. And I remember our first home here in Sioux Falls in 1974 was an apartment down by that place where you go to buy home stuff, the new one. I've never been in there, but I've heard that you can buy lampshades and that kind of stuff. That was our home. Now we got a home. We've had a couple others since then. People have to recognize that there's a difference. And in this town, when 5,000 people come to Sioux Falls on a given year, for every 2.5 people, we have to have a brand new housing unit. That means 2,000 units a year have to be new, because existing won't accommodate them. I got a lot more stuff, but do you have other questions?
No, and so thank you for that, Jeff Nelson. I'm going to go to Chris Beeson and talk a little bit about what you're seeing with your customers, because you guys are a large lender and you service a lot of different types of customers. So what are you seeing right now as the greatest need? Or maybe what are you seeing, let me reframe this, where do you see a gap? So tell me about some things that you're seeing that are needs, but also some things that you're seeing that maybe are challenges, and maybe we're missing some stuff here.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, we all know that we could say, it's a pretty easy answer to say that inventory is our biggest problem. Our price point for an average consumer that wants to buy a house today and take advantage of the South Dakota housing program, which is amazing. It's going to cover the down payment and help you offset the closing costs, majority of. And that payment with average taxes and insurance is going to cost $1,918. And so teaching choices of housing, and if that was truly the dream to be able to own a home, there might be choices or sacrifices in other areas. But one of the things that I feel like that we could be coming to that is not presently here is interest rates. You know, we've talked about everything that's gone up: lumber, infrastructure, land, supplies. But that also, there's one thing that interest rates doesn't like, which is inflation. Right. And as we go into next year, we're really paying a lot of attention to what rates are going to be. And we have over 700 people pre-qualified to buy a house that can't find one today. And if that changes and rates change drastically, we'll have to go back in, re-qualify all those, and make sure that they still can qualify for the home that they're currently looking for that they can't find. And lastly, they're getting frustrated. Multiple offers. I'm sure Jeff can comment on that. There's a lot of frustration that I just can't get the house. They get their hopes up. I think I had 2 clients today. There was at least 4 offers coming in, and the funniest offer I've seen this week was he presented an offer. It was a $2,000 over the highest bid to infinity. And I'm like, are you crazy? You're crazy. But he goes, I just want to see the last offer, but I will bid whatever the last offer is, 2,000 to infinity. And he just get that frustrated that he's trying to get this home for his family and he can't get one. So frustration, interest rates are definitely in our market.
And it's amazing because when I think about, so my own experience when I entered this community 6 years ago, I looked at 80-some houses, right? My husband and I were pre-qualified, and so we stayed within that lower end of our range. We were delighted. I mean, we were getting land, nice communities. We were moving without a lot of traffic. So that's really, people are coming here because we have these quality of life initiatives, right? The flip side is, I think about now and what you're describing, I was in where it was a seller market, okay? Now we're in really, or I'm sorry, it's really a seller's market right now. Before it was a buyer's market with a lot of inventory. So those kind of things can really quickly change. Talk to me about, let's kind of go in, and Hugo, you know, we have some questions for Jeff Eckhoff about the mayor, his plan, because we do have, the mayor, Tin Haken, was one of introduced our keynote speaker today, and really talked to our community youth about making sure that they're present because this is their community. We're all in this together. But go ahead, Hugo.
Yes, I'd like to ask you, tell us about what the city of Sioux Falls is doing to assess, you know, the workforce and community housing in both sectors of home ownership and rental.
We're praying a lot.
All right.
So when Mayor Tin Haken came into office, it's interesting, he has the One Sioux Falls framework that he set up. And 2 of the major tenets of that are workforce and housing. And so as we know, housing has been an issue for a long time. It's just kind of on steroids and on a rocket sled right now. So we are working on, you know, it's a multifaceted issue. He's come up with his housing action plan, which has 5 basic parts to it. Primarily, we'll talk about land. We're talking about incentives that we can provide, and then workforce and regulations and infrastructure and the things that go around that. Recently, the City Council put about $6.5 million into a housing fund to be used for various programs to help with the housing. We couple that with the $2 million, 1.5 of HUD money and the others half. So we have about $8.5 million. We're also been working closely with the legislature. They have their summer study they did this year, and there'll be funds coming from that to communities to help out, whether it's, there's a lot of different scenarios, but basically it's really targeted towards infrastructure for the most part. There's some regulatory changes at the state level with TIF financing, discretionary formula, the hopes to add some resources and relief to housing costs. And we are locally looking at 3 different tracks. One is home ownership, how to help single family to twin home, move people towards home ownership in an affordable way. 2 is multifamily, of course, and how do we help that, and some of that will be in the legislative changes. And 3rd, we're looking at infill development and taking core areas and helping to promote not only home revitalization, but density, increased density as well. And that's another thing we're looking at from a regulatory standpoint, is how we can increase density, particularly in the core areas along arterial streets.
Great. I'd like to ask, let's move on to Chris. I have a question. In my line of work, we deal with the first-time home buyers, and I get this question a lot as far as what do we see as a trend coming up as far as you mentioned the interest rates, inflation, and home prices. What do you see as a trend that could affect home buyers should the interest rates happen to go up?
Well, I, I mean, I don't know if this totally answers your question, but we do see a trend of people taking a home and fixing it up. And before, I think a lot of our consumers just wanted a turnkey property. And when you look at a lot of the lower down payment options, they're very picky. The appraisals are very detailed, and they're wanting to make sure that if this consumer is going to buy this house and move in, that they're going to not have a ton of additional expenses to be able to repair or fix. And so that appraisal really calls out a lot of things: windows, roofs, painting, electrical, how all those things are coming into play. And as a bank, a community bank, we see a big need of being able to help these consumers be able to buy a house that they could afford, that they could fit in, but we need to do some things. So we're seeing a renovation and then a convert program in the future that can be able to help be a little bit more affordable and be able to pick a home that they could make theirs. I mean, when you have limited income and you have limited inventory, it's always going to be a problem, and there's no great quick way to go out of this. And yet we live in an amazing city that people just keep moving here. And so it doesn't make it easier for us to catch up with inventory. And that's probably a better question for Jeff, in a sense of, how long is it going to take for our inventory to get to a level? But I would say a long time.
Okay. Jeff, would you like to share some opinions?
I believe if you looked at yesterday's Wall Street Journal on the front page, it talked about how we're 3.8 million homes behind in the United States. Part of that has to do with the Great Recession from 2008 to 2012, where builders just pulled in. There was a lot of inventory sitting all over the southern parts of the United States, and people just weren't building. And so when you get that far behind over 5 or 6 years, $500,000 or 500,000 houses, it's going to take a long time to catch up. And in fact, they're saying it could take 8 to 9 years before we get even if we build another 400,000 to 500,000 houses a year on top of what we've normally been doing. Now that's nationwide. So, long time.
It's amazing to me because one of the slides that we have shows homeownership rates. So when I think about my time when I was at Wells Fargo and then at Bank of America, we were at 72% homeownership rate, right? So that was approximately between 2000 and 2005 to 2008. Then we had, this recession. So, and we've seen now where we're at about I think 62.5%. So we've dropped. So we talk about in terms, because workforce development, we talk about the programs to try to get more people in. You're talking about the deficit where we've lost, actually, people have exited out of the industry. They no longer work in those industries. Okay, so now you're already behind as far as your supply, and you're having a harder time trying to get people into. And that's really something that people don't talk about. They don't talk about the fact that you had 1 million people that basically left an industry, took other opportunities, and now are no longer sitting there and building homes.
If we go look back in history, and probably most important is we talk about those people who were my parents' age, so the Great Society, if you will. And as they came out of World War II, we had 8 million people coming home from different parts of the world. And so the Veterans Administration started. And even during that amount of time, in the 40s and 50s, we only had about a 60 to 61% home ownership rate. Then during the Clinton administration, President Clinton thought it would be great to get us to the 66 to 67, and he did, and then George W. Bush came in, and he got us up to that 71 to 72%. In many instances, our level number for home ownership in the United States is about 60, 62, 63. That's what all of the trending is telling us. So as we see those people exit housing, because maybe they couldn't afford them,
right,
maybe we're not that far off, but we're still 3.8 million short to catch up to get to the 61 to 62 over the course of the next several years.
If just some numbers on Sioux Falls and the trend or what we're seeing in units being constructed. So for many years, Sioux Falls has enjoyed a 2% growth in population, and that's translated to 3,000 to 4,000 people a year pretty steadily. And so what we saw in like 2019 and prior, we saw maybe 1,100 or 1,200 new housing units come on the market or be permitted, right? And so that's houses, it's twin homes, it's townhomes, it's apartments, it's total. And then what we saw in last year was like 2,700 units. So we saw the market react to the demand, start to react to the demand. And this year we've already permitted over 2,800 units for Sioux Falls. Now, the issue becomes a lot of those units came online or got permitted last year late in the year because they saw all of a sudden this demand started happening. And so then it collided with material shortage, labor shortage, and everything else. So just because they're permitted doesn't mean they're built. And these guys can tell you, and Tom can tell you a lot about the timeline, how it's been extended from the building process from what it used to be. And so what we're, at the same time, we're seeing population growth of 5,000 plus, and that's with 2.5 people is 2,000 units just to keep up. Now we're hitting this year behind. We're not getting enough, we're getting enough units maybe permitted for that year, but we can't get them built fast enough, which puts us further behind for next year and the year after. And that's demonstrated by the number of homes, limited number of homes on the market, and the fact that occupancy in our multifamily is at about 99%. And so you can see how those kind of worlds are colliding. So it's inventory, it's inventory, it really is.
So let's go with that, and talk about some of the things that are affecting the developers and also the builders, okay? So Joan, one of the things that we have from the Recruitment Council is people are getting their arms around what it's like to be a developer, right? You got these escalating costs, you got these long projects. Talk about the challenges that you faced in the last year, and then give us something tangible that you'd like to see.
Oh, you want me to choose just one? This year has been extremely challenging. And again, we're in the affordable housing industry. So a year ago, November, we had our biggest, I would call it dollar amount. I've shared this with you earlier, biggest dollar amount awarded. We have 62 units in Sioux Falls that we got awarded from the state, 30 in T, and 62 in that growing community of Spearfish. Super excited about all of that. We actually doubled the size of the projects going into the application that we made the summer before. So we make our applications in the summer, we find out in the fall that we're awarded, and one of the preliminary questions you asked was how far out are we? And we're a year and a half out, and then 2 years from bringing these on, from the time we get a project awarded. So we got these projects awarded, and then the construction costs went up. And I shared this, that you pro forma, you submit your application, you have to pro forma these out for 40 years. That's how long you need to keep them affordable. So I'll just say our average rent, and I said before, we go 30% to 60%. We had some 80% in there. We did have some market rate units mixed in there, very few, but anyway. Say on average our rent was $750 when we made that application in 2020. Am I right year here? So get it awarded. Construction costs go up 20. I mean, it just kept going up every month, and we couldn't get anybody to commit to prices. And they say you will find out the price when your materials are delivered. We have a construction company. It was very challenging. So around that 20, they ranged, because of the locations, 20% to 23% over budget. 3 projects, total gap of $3.5 million on those. And we're at our max debt that we can put on them. Interest rates, we're long-term, they're set. We did get a little bit more for our tax credits. And I was able to, I call it shake money trees for $1.5 million. And in any other year, I would have been deemed a hero. But we had a $3.5 million gap. So where's the $2 million going to come from? Because what is our rent today? Market rate developers can probably get those rents up a little bit more to cover some of those increases in construction costs, maybe not the full 20%. Our rent today, we thought was $750. It actually went down between 20 and 21 in some of our rent categories by $50 a month. So we had this huge gap and we could not build the projects. And so just less than a month ago, the state stepped in, and its coronavirus relief funds is what came in from, I will say, the governor's office, which also has a lot of federal strings to it, that changed as of this morning. Let me just say that. And so nationally, we're on national boards, part of national discussion. We're trying to get them to release some strings on that, because they want you to use all of this money within a very short period of time, and we're thankful they came to the table with that. But right now, we've got these 3 projects that we have gotten an early start, started pushing dirt on. We need to get them built because these communities need this housing. But as of this morning and what has happened, and again, I don't know what happened with the conversation with the governor's office this afternoon that South Dakota Housing was having, but we've gotten $3.5 million awarded between the 3 projects, but they don't know if we can use those funds. And then if we can't and we don't get them anywhere else, again, the 62 units in Sioux Falls, the 62 units in Spearfish, and the 30 units in T don't happen. And a year and a half from now, those are next fall, when they start coming on, they don't come online. And here we sit again. So those challenges, Denise, it's the construction costs, it's everything right now. And we've got units under construction where, you know, new windows were supposed to come in November. They're saying now it's the end of December, pushing occupancy back. And we ordered them months ahead of time. And we're storing materials on site. And no, you can talk about this all day long, but we're still in a pandemic crisis for material supply, labor, all of it.
And that's a really excellent point, because one of the things I think we're all back here at a conference and we're grateful. We also have a lot of people online, okay, which we're grateful. But now we're dealing with all of those time lags. And we're also dealing with the fact that we have, as part of our supply chain, in some of our key areas, some of our major industries, where we're not producing these items inside our own country, okay? So we talked about that in another session. We were talking about manufacturing coming back, and one of the things that we're doing is really encouraging that with a lot of the talent that we have that's right now young, and get them excited about these careers, because if we can get them excited about careers, we can actually have the opportunity to see some of these organizations move back into our nation. So thank you, because I do know that we talked about that challenge and what it was like. So Hugo, you know, why don't we follow up, and Jeff, you talked about the fact that the mayor, these pillars, I'd like to know a little bit more about how this is coming, because people think, the one takeaway here really is it's not going to happen overnight, okay? It's one of the things like childcare that the really takeaway from this is really we're having this discussion and we're getting better informed about what the issues are. A lot of times people say, well, why can't they just build? Well, we can, but we have to have land, right? And we have to have the infrastructure in that land. So Jeff, tell me about some things that your team is doing, because you have a great team. I've met some of the people. You have somebody that came from the code enforcement side that's making it easier in that regulatory area. But if you can talk about some of those enhancements that you've made over the last year, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Sure. So we, since this spring, there's just been dozens of meetings about housing, and I've tried to attend a lot of them. Our teams attend a lot of them. And it's this housing thing, it's almost like whack-a-mole. I mean, there's this, but then there goes this, and this leads to this, and this leads to that. So But to your point, in addition to the things we talked about, we are looking at our building codes. We're trying to make sure that we are, in fact, we are getting ready to take the adoption the next round, and there's literally dozens of local amendments we make that we take things out that don't make sense, that are that just add cost. Public Works is looking at design standards. They've made some decisions about street width and right of way. And now they're looking at sump pump collection areas and some of those other types of things. So we're looking at it from that front. We are looking at it from a code enforcement standpoint and trying to work with neighborhoods to make sure they're investable and try to streamline that process and try to work with people to get their property rehab back. We've provided some funding to Southeast Tech to help on their carpentry program. So we've been more aggressive with those folks and trying to help on the workforce pipeline side of it. And then, like I said, we're looking at different incentives that we can do. The issue we're trying to work around, and Jeff and Joan have been a big part of this, and we have some meetings coming up next week to know what is our spot, right? What is affordable, and how do we best apply the dollars we have? Because we don't have an unlimited supply. And we realize that in the big scheme of things, $6 or $8 million really isn't a lot. So we got to be strategic about how we apply that.
No, and thank you for that. And I think anybody that's done with sort of the regulatory environment around building standards, which I have, it's tremendous. And the costs associated on builders. And we talk about the costs that we can control and things we can't, okay? That's one of the issues. So I'm going to turn it over to you and get a perspective, Tom, because you are the president of a very large association. Some members are here today. But talk about outside of workforce, okay? Because we've already said we're working on developing more talent, and you're part of that with the solution with Career Connections, actually a really great partner of ours. But tell me about some other things that you're seeing, some trends. One of the things that's really interesting is we have a lot of people in this room that are not, they're renters, okay? And one of the trends we were following, and we talk about workforce housing, is the desire to live kind of differently than our parents did. My husband and I own a single family house. When I talk to my kids, they don't necessarily want to live in a home that is on a street with other houses. They're more interested in some of these other apartment complexes and condos. So that's just what I'm hearing. But you have to be hearing about other trends that people want as far as housing.
Sure. First, I'm going to just kudos to Jeff and the city because we have a long-standing history as an association with them. Ron Bell before Butch and Butch now. So when our code cycles come through, I think we're one of the first stops as far as I'm aware, but early enough to where we get a say in or a voice as far as what these codes are going to do from a cost standpoint. So we just did that with Butch, as Jeff said, and again, Joan and Jeff Nelson have been involved, and I've dipped in and out of a few of the early on meetings with some city council members, Jeff and his staff. So we're grateful, and on a national scale, we have representation, national delegates that go from our local association, national meetings, and we kind of always get looked at like we're cooking something funny in South Dakota, that we have that good of a relationship with our city staff. So we always want to thank them for that. But trends, as you said, we stay more in that custom home side right now, but I think we can see it as a city as a whole with these, not necessarily on the subsidized projects, but just these investors coming in on these apartment complexes. I mean, it's Olympic-sized swimming pools and golf simulators and, workout rooms with the Peloton bikes and rents of, I don't even know, but probably $1,200, $1,400 a month on some of them, which, Chris can attest to is, what is that, a $300,000 house anymore or something along those lines? But so I think the younger people, as our city grows, the downtown grows, Lake Lorraine, those type of developments, I think it is becoming more attractive. I've been in conversations with Jeff prior and had them with other people. Some of this is, it's a community, what their expectation level is. So you know, we also have this vibe of younger people coming out of their mom and dad's house with the walk-in tile shower and the granite countertops and the custom cabinetry. And I think we tried to appease that as a market for a long time, but we're at a point where we just, I mean, we really can, and that's not to mean that you can't still have a nice home, but you might not have a $300 square foot home as your first home. So, I mean, just piggybacking off of Jeff's point, to follow up with Joan a little bit on you know, the single family side, just to give you, and you hear it in the news all the time, but to give you guys a glimpse, we've got a master bathroom remodel going right now, been going. I just got notified about 2 weeks ago by our plumber. The tub was ordered, already purchased, and the manufacturer of the tub called the wholesaler locally and said, we're jacking the price. I mean, it was purchased, you know, it's not like we were gonna order it. But so we just really have no control over what they're gonna do. I mean, you're totally at liberty of, you know, these suppliers that Bear built a Minneapolis area interior door, probably one of the largest suppliers to our market. And it, you know, say they had 15 doors 12 months ago that we could get. They brought trucks to our market every day. You'll wait 3.5 months for now. You might get half of the order and another 2 months to get half. So it's just kind of ebbing and flowing, and you know, that adds issues on the bank side for us and our customers when they're building a new house. How do you set closing? How do you lock in rates? How do they move out of the house they're in so Jeff Nelson can have more inventory to sell? So I mean, it's quite a spiral, really, and I know it's in the news. You guys are all aware of that, but I don't see a supply chain fix in at least the next 12. So I think we're just gonna have to learn to adapt right now.
So I want to open it up. We do have people in the room at this time. So do we have any questions that we'd like to ask of our panel? Yes.
Supply is obviously an issue, labor is an issue, but when we look at the development and those 2,000 units that we need to be building, how do you all work together to determine, is that affordable housing, is that custom builds, is that first-time home buyer units? What does that look like?
Thank you. I'll let somebody else follow me, but I'll just take it from what I know of the builder side and the involvement in our association. We've had these conversations too when it's lot scarcity, inventory issues. You look at national statistic, I'm not going to nail it, but it's in the realm of about $348,000 for median home price. 25% of that national stat-wise is regulatory costs. So, you know, that's not a knock. I just gave thumbs up to our city, and I mean that because it's, you know, they can't just write checks, and I mean, it's got to be covered costs and whatnot too, but yeah. I might be retiring a lot sooner, but the point of this is it's becoming a game where deep pockets are able to develop, but some of these companies, which kudos to them, I'm a capitalist and an entrepreneur. If you're going to develop that land and now you have a construction company, you're going to build that house, why would you open it up to multiple builders, you know? And we have companies in town that have gone in and out of that, but it becomes a difficult game when you're not in that custom home market of, you know, whatever it be, 450, 500,000 plus. So when we're looking at your 280 baseline up to 350, I mean, we're seeing these pockets of town develop as one builder building them all out, which is great. It just is a limit on resources of how much they can produce at a time, you know. So we need to figure out a way to get more builders into that and working toward that goal. So
I would say too, Tom makes some excellent points, right? The market kind of drives itself, right? I mean, so for example, we had a meeting once and the discussion was, well, we need 50-foot lots because we get higher density and that would work, you know, that would help with our housing numbers. And so we pulled up a development and said, these are all 50-foot lots. But the buyers want 3-car garages. You can't put a 3-car garage on a 50-foot lot. So they're redividing them into 75-foot lots. So I mean, that's some of it too, is you've got the risk and the capital out there. You have to let people build to where they can maximize their investments as well. And so, like everything else, people vertically integrate, and the larger ones, you know, do take a lot of land given where they are now. So we've heard that loud and clear. Is there a way the city can create inventory. Can we go out and, create land that some of the smaller builders can build on? It's something that we're looking at. But we don't want to screw up the market, right? So we have to be careful of that too.
Yeah, and I think another way to work together is a longer lock. A consumer wants to purchase a home and then go into it kind of in the blind. It takes 6 months to a year to be able to build, and what's the interest rate going to be then? And that could really change affordability. It could actually knock them out of affordability. So we're working hard to be able to securitize and hedge against, to be able to provide that consumer a longer lock. I just feel like if everything is going up and you can't even predict the cost of a window or lumber or even simple things of drywall, what could we do as a lock standpoint?
I'm going to ask you, the two of you. Yeah, we're going to.
On the affordable housing side.
Yeah, on working together to have some type of consensus, right? So.
And Jeff and I have been whispering back and forth, and we talk about the infrastructure, and that is correct. And a joke, I shouldn't say even a joke, from South Dakota Housing a couple weeks ago when we were talking about land in general, Brent Adney said, well, last I heard they weren't making any more land, So, for us in the affordable housing industry, we get calls or we go into a community and they say, yeah, we've got a great affordable housing or low-income housing piece of land for you. And it's out by the industrial area, railroad tracks, all of that. And again, being in the multiple states that we are, we run into that a lot. And we still run into that in Sioux Falls. And the Costellos have done a great job over the years, and you talk about money. They went and purchased land parcels, and some large land parcels and some smaller ones, knowing that the growth of the city was coming. Right now, and I won't say we're out because we still have a large land parcel that hasn't even been touched yet. But one of our smaller parcels, I'm trying to think, I think we bought 17 years ago, that has now come to fruition for building an affordable housing complex on it. And we went through 2 years of, I will say, pain with the Planning Commission and City Council, and I want to thank Michelle Erpenbach for all of her support with that, because of the neighbors and the resistance that we had, just getting that parcel of land zoned so we could dedicate a street that was put in. We weren't going to build it anytime soon, and again, how many years ago was that? And now we're making applications on it. But in our industry, the motto that Dan and Tom have instilled and ingrained in me is real estate is location, location, location. And Jeff and Jeff have heard me say this multiple times. There are no good affordable housing locations, only good locations. And having people at 30 to 50 or 60% AMI, up to 80% AMI, they want to live in good neighborhoods too. So we're not going to be put by the railroad tracks. We're going to look for those great locations, great schools, and we're going to go try to buy that land. Now that's challenging. That is so challenging for us because the price of land is not going down, it's going up, and we have to, all the things that go into a development have to make sense to keep those rents affordable. But we will always look for great locations. We look for great partners for that, and Jeff Nelson was a great, I will say, advocate for us. The city of Sioux Falls has been wonderful for us applying for some of those dollars to help us out for the projects, and we will continue to do that. But again, they're not making any more land here, and we can't always have it be built downtown. So I know the challenges they went through just to get a surface parking lot into the surplus, what last week or something. I mean, the year that they spent on that. And so anyway, looking for great partners. We want to continue to do this, but it's going to be in the newer and around the outside of Sioux Falls, not necessarily downtown Sioux Falls on an infill lot.
Okay. Just to follow up, there's an acronym called NIMBY, and what it means is not in my backyard.
Oh.
And what the kind of product that Joan builds is for people who will be our neighbors, and they'll be the people that buy my house. because they're going to live in a neighborhood that Joan puts it in and that maybe I live in or you live in. And if you've gone to a city commission meeting and you hear the neighbors talk about those people, it's a terrible, terrible term. We all have to recognize that we need affordable housing everywhere in this community and everywhere in every community. So somebody starts talking about not in my backyard, slap them around and tell them, those people are me in 1974. Yeah. And you, some of you now. Yeah. We all have to work together. If you had another 45 minutes, I've got 45 minutes worth of notes. I can't stay that long. But when we start to think about what we're going to do at the Accessible Housing Advisory, that's where we're all going to work together. And we're going to involve people like Tom. Joan's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Jeff's going to be there. Chris should be there. And all of you should be there for your input, because this is how the money's going to get spent. Can I end up with one thing?
Yes.
The state of South Dakota has $100 million that they're going to give for housing. 70% of that money will go to rural South Dakota, and 30%, or what is that? $30 million is going to be split between Minnehaha County and Pennington County. Remember this, 45 to 50% of all the high school seniors that graduate in South Dakota graduate in Minnehaha and Lincoln County. Those are the people that will come and work here. They have $15 million for Minnehaha County. Doesn't go very far. I mean, you can't, I don't know what it buys for infrastructure or anything like that. But if you know somebody that makes decisions in Pierre, in a great big building out there, and you have sway with them, we all need more money. Not just Sioux Falls. Certainly, Worthing needs it, Harrisburg needs it, and T needs it. And Jeff and his people are working about sewer systems for all of them to work through Sioux Falls. We're working together. Sometimes we don't always see it, but we need your help too. Sermon's over, sorry.
No, and with that, I'd like to thank our panel. So, and I do want to echo, we have great leadership within our city, so thank you, Jeff, okay? We also have great lenders that really, they go above and beyond, and they really watch out, for their borrowers, so thank you, Chris. Jeff, there's no doubt you are an advocate for the people that you serve, and so we thank you for that. Joan, it's really nice that we get the opportunity to learn some of those challenges that you're facing, okay? And we have people in the room that now have knowledge about those challenges and hopefully can start helping you solve them. And then Tom, you and everything that you guys are doing, again, we focus on the fact that we are bringing more people in to your community and into your industry, so thank you for all your efforts. So with that, we're going to conclude today's program, and thank you.